I have time.is open.
Oh yeah.
More like time.piss.
Chrome for some reason is bad again, so I'm doing time.is off my phone.
Cool.
That should technically work, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it should be the same time.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing
What?
about time.
Alex, do you know about this Death Come True? It's from Tukyo. It looks like it might be an FMV game.
Oh.
It's coming out in June.
Oh.
For iOS, Android, Switch, PS4, and PC.
I did not hear about that. Huh. So that's the wait, no, they have two projects on the go, right?
I have no idea.
Weird.
I had their website open from last week, and I don't know what this is. Looks like a hotel.
Huh.
For 5 seconds, I thought, like, wait, they're making a hotel now instead of a game.
Hell
and
yeah.
I was like, that's ambitious.
I
Yeah.
see that. But yeah,
This looks very. I'll play this.
Oh, okay, yeah, they have announced this, and this one has been known. It's their other project that is not known.
Yeah. Well, isn't it the one like it's a collaboration one? Is that the one that's not known?
I think so.
Yeah, because that's I think that's one that they know is basically like it sure sounds like Zeroscape meets Danganronpa.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, yeah. I didn't know it was FMV though. That's cool.
Yeah, I was just seeing this. That game of the year, baby.
Baby.
Hey, okay. Baby. Hey, baby. 30.
Ooh.
Okay.
God, okay. I'll have to clip it.
It is our new opening podcast music.
Josh Sawyer, I think I would need to get permission from him, and I don't know if he would agree to that. He seems like a very nice guy and very amicable.
Remix,
and I did buy Pillars of Eternity 2 this week, but
remix the current music with the ooh. Unable to
It would not be. There's enough clean samples of Josh Sawyer making that noise that I bet you could pretty easily make that happen.
What if I stayed up after the podcast to finish Final Fantasy VII? I don't know how long this last chapter is.
I can tell you in my lifetime doesn't mean anything anymore. So,
well, I might need to go into school tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. I mean Monday.
Yeah.
But I've heard multiple things. One from my school, one from the teacher, or one from my company, and supposedly the school heard something from the company that is different from what I heard. And it's Saturday, so I need to figure out who to email because I emailed one person and never heard back.
Cool.
So that'll be fun tomorrow.
It looks like Restream does not want to connect. That's cool.
I hope I didn't break it.
I don't think so. I'm gonna reset the connection and then
trying to stream by accident instead of just hitting record aggressively stack sized my computer. It was like I was like, wow, I've not had a lockup this bad in a while.
Yeah,
I didn't have to reboot or anything, but
OBS will do that to you.
Yeah.
It is not the most gentle of CPU hogs. Oh, I think just OBS something is broken. Cool. Oh wait, no, there we go. All right, we're streaming. Yay.
Yay.
Live on the internet.
Jeff said they would love to be on next week also. So
yay.
Yeah,
they're cool. So
Alex, you were talking to some of those indie obscura or some of the people involved with that.
Yeah.
About getting them on. We should try and do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I can see if they'd be available in 2 weeks.
Sure.
That sounds very good.
Yeah.
That would be very exciting.
I bet we could get if we record so early. I was gonna say, I bet we could get like a Jan or something on.
What if we got Nomura on?
We'd have to change our recording time, maybe not. I don't know. He seems like a guy who might stay up late.
I bet he goes to bed around 3:30, if not later.
You could mean AM or PM, and I mean
AM, but I bet he has a biphasic sleep schedule, and sleeps from like 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then noon to 3 p.m.
I think it was an E3 conference, and he was wearing like cargo shorts on stage.
Oh, I have seen that conference. There was a period in my life where it's funny that it took me until last year to get into Kingdom Hearts, because there was a period in my life where I thought that he was like the modern day, he was Yoko Taro. Yeah, basically. I thought he was like the prophetic classics author, except for video games. When I was like 15,
I just always thought he was the guy who put a lot of belts and zippers on people.
That's where I eventually arrived.
I mean, that's very true. Like, that's not mutually exclusive.
Talk about Final Fantasy X. Lulu's entire dress is just belts.
Once I took a philosophy class and tried and replayed Final Fantasy X, that's when I understood that perhaps I was maybe overrating his work.
Belts all the way down.
Have you seen Donald Duck's hat?
I'm cool with the zippers and belts thing. That's fine.
It's so much.
It's like a signature at this point. And I prefer so much. If
your
to
signature
nothing.
Was the artwork,
like those, I'm very excited for that Dune movie. But like, if you look at the costumes from the David Lynch version and the costumes from the new one, it's like, the new one's so boring visually. It's just a bunch of men and women in like Imperial uniforms from Star Wars versus extremely colorful and gorgeous costumes from the David Lynch one.
It's just funny that zippers and belts are where he gravitates towards.
Someone had to gravitate towards zippers and belts, though.
So, leave some for the rest of us.
No, I don't need to. I don't have to wear pants anymore, so I don't really need a belt.
All right, I'm gonna pull that quote out of context and use that all over the place.
All right,
I have an isolated recording of you.
Damn.
Clip that part.
April 18th. All right, is everybody ready?
You're gonna call my bank, and for the voice verification, it'll be like. I don't have to wear pants anymore. The computer lady will be like, yes.
Weirdly, that's the answer to all
Take all of his
questions.
Money. Yeah. What don't I have to do anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, Andre, anytime.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Hello and welcome to Gaming Fyx episode 117 on this April 18th, 2020. I'm your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite pants. Joining me today is Pat.
I'm my own favorite pants.
Living in his own private Idaho.
No,
pants.
My apartment is very small and I do live with my partner, so there's not a ton of privacy to be had, but just saying I have good self-esteem and I'm my favorite pants.
Feel at home in your own skin.
Exactly.
Perhaps.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Alex.
Yeah. I ain't afraid of no pants. I ain't afraid of no bed.
Pantsin makes me feel good.
Exactly.
The suffering of others when I embarrass them by pulling their pants down around their ankles in public.
That's you should not do that. That's one of those childhood pranks that's actually kind of assault.
If they've got cute underwear, who cares, man? You gotta show them off to the world. Why are you keeping those cute undies to yourself?
We do not advocate for pantsing people.
My underwear has Neil Cicerega on it.
Really?
No.
Really?
I wish it did.
I was gonna say, I was like, that seems like
that's actually rad, and I would like some of that underwear if that exists. So if someone has a line on some
mouth sounds,
yeah,
mouth sounds, him like with the finger to the mouth, and Allyson.
Hi,
tell us about your pants.
Well, I've been wearing pajama pants and sweatpants for the past few weeks. So
hell yeah.
When I put on jeans to go for a walk, I was like, what am I doing today?
I slowly am being broken of so normally I have like a pretty hard and fast rule that I'll go for walks in like gym shorts,
right?
Because it's a physical activity. If it's around the block, I won't like go out to a hike in gym shorts, but I won't wear pajama pants on a walk.
Right. Yeah, that's me too. But
it's starting
the garbage out in pajama pants.
Yes, I'll take the garbage out. Yeah. I'll take the dog out if it's just like walk the dog quickly. But if we're going to go for like an hour long, like walk around the neighborhood or whatever, I will not do it in pajama pants. But I'm starting to be broken down because it's like anymore. Who fucking cares? And also now that I know that putting on pants is like a like activation of capitalism, like a micro capitalist activation. Now
we're not paying you to wear sweatpants.
Exactly. Just because of that article, now I'm kind of like, maybe I'll just wear banana hammocks everywhere I go from now on, because like, fuck that guy. Fucking riverboat captain.
LA Times.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but sure.
They just published an article that was like, it's time to start wearing pants like real pants, like we pay
headline.
You.
It's real bad.
You're being paid to wear real pants, not sweatpants when you work from home.
Yeah, it's the
fuck.
The story title was, I think they pulled the tweet down or changed the headline or something because they were getting like ratioed to hell and back.
A lot seriously.
Of bad headlines lately.
Yeah, I woke up and read that headline and was like, it is unbelievable to me that this is not an Onion headline, because it was like this opinion piece by a fashion expert who in his profile picture has like a sun hat and like a like light blue button up shirt, and he definitely looks like I don't know, like an extra from The Music Man or a riverboat captain, which if that's your style, you do you, but don't fucking tell me what to do with my clothes, man. Yeah. And the title, the headline of the article was like, stop wearing sweatpants and put on pants like the adult you're paid to be.
Wow.
Yeah. And
it's so dumb.
God, it was so bad.
It's like, you're paying me to do work, you're not paying me to wear real pants.
And it was an absolutely serious article. There was no humor or self-awareness in it at all.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of people go, hey, putting on work clothes can be a like good transition from doing stuff. And I'm like, everything's terrible. I just want to wear pajamas all day. And I feel like I have a right to do that.
I also think personally that there's an argument that is one of those like, don't tell people how much money you make things. That's like actually just manipulative to get you to like, get into work mode is like,
fuck
off.
Like,
be
I'm doing my job.
Work.
Let me wear sweatpants.
Yeah.
Well, when it's perfectly, totally acceptable to wear sweatpants. All the time, but especially when you're playing video games.
Hell yeah.
And that's what we're a podcast about, not a pants podcast.
Hey.
We're
I
a
don't even
video
own
games
sweatpants.
podcast.
Like,
I wear PJ pants and gym shorts.
Just you wait. There's going to be an indie game where you play as a sentient pair of pants, and then it'll be like, now who's talking about, like, I don't know where I was even.
I will fund this.
And Bruce Willis plays the pants.
Get at me, indie devs. I'll give you my stimulus money.
See, I was just thinking of it being more of like an Octodad type, like, oh, it's hard to move around.
Yeah.
But you're as a pair of pants.
I should clarify, I don't have a specific distaste for Bruce Willis. I've heard he's kind of a dick, but he's fine, I'm sure. He was nice to my dad at a Yellow concert once. It's just...
What? Oh, well, whatever. Let's leave that there. I
specifically want to give him money.
Allison, are you thinking like QWOP, but with pants?
Oh, that's a good idea.
You call it flop.
Okay, like, we're coming up with a good game here. Like, this is the first Gaming Fyx like game. fluff.
You know how to program. We came up with the idea.
Oh god.
So program it.
I can do extremely bad art.
You've worked on games before.
Perfect. I will produce it.
Okay.
I was here.
You can write the narrative if you want to.
Sure. If you're not going to do it, I'll do it.
I mean, I'll do it too.
I'll develop the characters.
Tell you what, you can produce it and I'll write the story.
Sure, sounds great. But in the meantime, I think we've played some games. This is not a podcast about creating games.
It could be.
It could be. We'll transition any day now. But it is a podcast about games we played in the last week or so. I don't know.
Ish.
Yeah, depending on how long it has been since you've been on. Man, when Erica comes back, we are going to have so many games to talk about.
If you thought our regular episodes, if you thought our regular episodes were long, yeah.
Well, I said we're going to talk about video games, so let's start with Allyson.
Boom.
Oh,
You've been playing some very special games.
The Air video game.
Maybe too timely to be playing these games.
Yeah,
it's extremely timely. No, and I'm going to tell you about how timely it is because I was not expecting for how timely the second one is. So after last week, I've been playing both the Danganronpa games. I'd started playing the first one a while ago, but I don't know why. For some reason, I just didn't finish it. But then I got deeper into playing one, and I basically played it really quickly, and now I'm in the middle of Danganronpa 2. So that's been good, but extremely timely because, again, it's people who are all stuck in inside and can't get out for the first game.
And then in the second school.
Yeah, you're locked in a school. Okay, so basically, if you're not aware of the game, it's a visual novel. And the first game is basically there are 15 students. They're locked in the school that they're going to. 15? I mean,
well,
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
worry about it.
Don't worry about it. But they're locked in a school, and basically, they're all of them are supposed to be these like super ultimate students. So they're like one's the like best martial artist, one who's the best writer, stuff like that. The
ultimate gang leader is one of them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So,
ultimate fortune teller.
Yeah. Oh,
is ultimate gang leader only in 3? I can't remember now.
No, he's the biker guy in 1.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. There's also
You're thinking of someone else, Alex.
Yeah, I am.
But anyways, so they're basically told by this character Monokuma, who basically, hey, if you want to leave this place,
should be noted, Monokuma is a bear.
He's like a really
a stuffed bear,
wonky looking bear, but don't call him a stuffed animal. And he's basically tells you, hey, if you want to get out of here, you're going to have to kill each other. Like, you have to kill one person, and if you don't get caught, you can go. But they also have to do these class trials to make sure, so that the people can prove you're innocent or guilty. And if they prove that, the person who's the murderer gets punished, which is basically they get killed. Or if the
in spectacular fashion,
in extremely spectacular fashion.
Yep.
Even to the point of like this game, is pretty standard visual novel. So it's like, you see the faces and there's very specific, like, it's not animated. And then they're just like, the animation just ramps up for these death scenes.
And the animation style is extremely cool.
It's extremely interesting. It's yeah, it looks really, it looks like it's a very distinctive visually game. Like, it looks very cool. But then also, like, if the person who's the killer goes free, then everybody else is supposed to die. So you have pretty high stakes here. But then there's also other mysteries going on and other things to discover. So, like, why you're there, what's going on with the school, what's going on with monokuma, what's going on with all of this. So
what's going on with the world.
With yeah. So it
was
gets
the terrible, horrible, worst thing to ever happen to society event, you know?
Yeah, it's real bad. So I've been playing. I played through the first one pretty quickly, and then the second one I've been playing, and I just got past the point where the story was that there was a very contagious disease going around the students in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to isolate themselves, but away from people. And I was like, oh my God, why am I playing this game right now? Because I was like, because the first game, like the second game, it's more of the same basically, except they're now on an island. I still don't know all the mysteries around it, but I'm starting to get ideas of where the mysteries are going. Maybe.
That's you think you do.
I think I do. Yeah, but
I'd love to hear what you think is going to happen.
Well,
do you intend to play these games?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
This game is like almost 10 years old, isn't it? Like
I could just take my headphones off if you really want to talk about the spoilers. That's fine.
I want to hear where Allyson thinks it's going to go, just for posterity.
That's fine.
Yeah, we won't spoil you. Also, it should be noted, 2 does have a second character along with Monokuma. That's not a bear, but
Monomi.
Yeah.
I like low key love Monomi.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I keep wanting to Google search Monomi because I'm like, oh, like.
Don't want spoilers though.
But I don't want spoilers. That's the thing.
Yeah, okay.
So I've held off.
Okay. Where do you think the story is going to go?
So
Danganronpa 2 from where you are.
So my theory for game 1 was that everybody would be robots. That did not pan out.
That did not. Yep.
I think it was a good theory though. But okay. So one of the things in this game that they've shown us so far is that the academy, the Hope's Peak Academy, is on this island. And it's got to be it because they have the same weird door from the start, and it's basically it. Man. Basically, my theory, I have 2 theories. First theory, this is all inside a video game because there have been multiple real life. There have been multiple winky nods about the previous game and. Wait, this feels like a game. There's one point where the screen is all glitching out. This might be a simulation or a game. The second theory is that this is like a water world scenario. So that's what these islands are, is because that's where the actual school is, and they have the other islands, but this is really that area in, I'm assuming, Tokyo, where the school used to be, but now it's just flooded with water.
I thought you were going to say that the 2 games take place at the same time.
See, that's another good question because I
guess they talk about the other game, so maybe you wouldn't think that.
Yeah, but also the thing is that one of the characters from 1 showed up in 2. Yakuya, and now I'm wondering, this might be either accurate or hilarious in a couple of days because I've been playing these games pretty quickly, and I'm intending to go play more of 2 after this podcast. But there's the guy who's considered the ultimate lucky student, and the ultimate lucky student, for people who are listening, was the main character of game 1. Basically, he was chosen by lottery to attend this exceptional school, but he ends up being the protagonist of the game. Now there's an ultimate lucky student in game 2 who is extremely annoying and is basically kind of parroting a lot of the kind of things that were done straight in game 1. So because they're talking a lot, because the game like the themes of the game surround things like hope and despair, and they use those words constantly. Like and the duality of between hope and despair. But he's basically kind of like the opposite of the original villain. So I'm thinking that this is the actually Makoto, the lead character from 1, just with either like something's happened to him, or his mind's been messed up, or this is a game, so it's like simulating Makoto, but in a different thing. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
The only thing that I have to say has been frustrating to me are the class trial gimmicks.
They're so bad.
So basically, most of the game operates like a visual novel, right?
We can call Pat back.
Pat.
All right, welcome back.
So those were my theories about what's going to happen in the story. I will know a ton of different stuff by next week, and someday I will join you for the Danganronpa 3 spoiler chat.
Looking forward to it.
But
2 years later.
2 years later. Yeah, but I made it work, and now we're getting 10th anniversary news about it, so I'll be ready for that when it comes out in May. But the one thing that has been kind of disappointing about playing through these are the class trial kind of gimmicks. So a lot of the class trial feels pretty similar to something like Phoenix Wright or an Ace Attorney trial, where you have to go through and you have to find contradictions or find where things are incorrect based off of your evidence that you collected in the earlier kind of visual novel portion. But Danganronpa decides, that general gameplay, that satisfaction of finding out contradictions isn't exciting enough. So let's add a weird hangman game. Let's add a weird shooter. Let's add a weird rhythm game. And I'm just like, yep. I don't know why you thought you needed this game. They've also now added like a driving game, yeah. Like a motorcycle.
Is 3 the snowboarding one, Alex?
What?
I don't remember a snowboarding one.
I think it's like there's like a snowboarding-ish type game. Yeah, that's.
But anyways, they keep throwing these games as like, oh, this is the simulation of going into his mind or coming up with this idea, and I'm like, but why did you need to put this in here? Because it's just more like annoying than anything. Like there are a couple of times where I feel like to make the kind of contradiction thing, you have to do like a timed shooting of a truth bullet, which is like basically the evidence that you've collected. But sometimes there's other stuff coming up, so you have to shoot the white noise down and then hit it with the thing, and it's all timed. And sometimes your reticle is like wobbling around, and it's just like, why do they have to do this?
It drags things out.
It does, because there have been several times where I'm like, okay, I know what it is. I know what I need to do. So why do you make this more unpleasant than it has to be?
How did they kill him? It was a knife. Yes, but can you spell it?
Yeah, exactly.
With these moving letters?
Thank you, ProZD.
Yeah. But it's extremely true. And that happened. I was doing that that one for 2, which they've changed a little bit, but it makes it take a little bit longer now.
Yep.
I don't know, man. And I'm just like, I know what it spells. I just need to wait for these letters to come up on screen so that I can spell out the word. I know what it spells now. Can I just type it in?
Easily the worst part of those games.
Yeah. It is better in 3, but there is one mini game in particular that takes like fucking a year
Yeah.
It's also a driving one.
The one mini game I think is a solid choice is at the end of every trial, they have you put together like a comic of basically what happened. Yeah. And I think that's a solid move, because sometimes you can get so caught up in the details of things, or just like, oh, that's contradictory because of that detail. But it shows you, it kind of makes you be aware of, okay, here's a specific series of events, what happened. So basically you're given like little images and you have to fill in this comic. Sometimes the images can be extremely vague in the first one, because like you're just like, because there's one in particular where there's one character getting into something and then there's an image of them getting out of the thing, but they looked pretty much identical, and you're just like, which one is it? But ultimately, though, I think that's really successful. It's just the kind of the ones that don't really have anything to do with anything. I'm just like,
yep.
Why are you here? Like, people who are buying this game know that they're playing a visual novel. They know that it's not going to be like an action shooty game.
Yeah, but
it is an action shooty game
at times. But the thing I liked about Danganronpa, like all three of them, is that with those class trials, is that the way the conversations and discussions take place feels pretty natural. Like, for what the characters know, like what the knowledge they have at that time, and then the way they kind of like logic their way through the situations and like the conclusions they come to and stuff like that. I always found those really well done.
Right. I feel like it's very, it does feel very natural how things move from one to another. And I do think that the characters are generally really, really like surprisingly good, because I think it's really easy to go, oh, okay, they're the ultimate swimmer, so they're going to be all about swimming. But you start but if you take the time to talk to these characters and do kind of spend your free time with them, you start to get kind of a bit better sense for who they really are. So that's a big part of why I actively want to go back and fill out the report cards, which is basically making sure that you've done all of the dialogue with every character.
They open up like a class trial thing where it's just like, oh, just live your school life with everybody.
And I'm like, I might do that in the future just so that I can hang out with these characters again. I think that's
like salmon mode or something. I can't remember.
Something like that. Salmon mode.
Oh, I thought it was just like school mode.
No, they have like a dumb name for it.
I'll look it up. Keep going.
I always wanted, like, when I first played it, I wanted like my choices to have an impact on the story or something.
Yeah. There have been a couple of times where they kind of hint that it's going to have an impact on the story. And then I'm like, I get stressed out. And so then I Google it and then it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter. That was just like a fake choice, a fake out.
Or if I could if I spent time with somebody and I learned something about them, if I could use that in a class trial or something like that, that would be nice. But
to step back, I think, sorry, one sec. In it's specifically in V3, it's called Love Across the Universe Dongan Salmon Team.
Bless.
Salmon Team.
Bless indeed. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good.
That was important.
No, that's good.
Put a salmon mode in every game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, every game needs one. What was I even going to say there? I think the thing that was kind of making me stressed out about the first game, and actually what ended up making me not play it, is that there's basically so many characters at the start. People are going to start dying, so you're just like, there's a lot of indecision, like, who do I talk to?
Who do I think is going to die next?
Who do I think is going to die next? Do I talk to them, or do I pick like who's going to last so I can get all the way through that person? It's so basically the fact that there's like a separate mode that's like, you can fill that out on your own time makes me feel a lot more like, okay, I can just kind of chill out about about that because because you get to the free time in the first game and you're just like, okay, there are so many people. I know who I want to talk to, but like, will they die? Should I talk to somebody else who's going to die?
I have a gift to give them. Should I find a gift?
I have to do this whole like gotcha machine to get presents. It's anyways. So, but I think that the fact that I think it's pretty easy to get kind of stressed out about that if you're, I guess if you're someone like me, but the fact that there's a separate mode makes it make sense, or makes it a lot less stressful to go, okay, I don't need to optimize this. I can just talk to the characters that I want to talk to. For sure.
All right. Well, that's Danganronpa 1 and 2. We'll be back with more talk about 3.
And I'll talk.
Future.
We'll find out if my predictions for 2 are right. This may or may not age well, but Sonia Nevermind, best girl. I don't know if she ends up killing anybody or dying next, but she's fun.
She's been dead the whole time.
I would be like, like that could conceive of, if I knew you weren't joking, I'd be like, wait, is that a spoiler?
Am I joking? Who knows? All right. Well.
Yeah, but yay. I don't think I like this quite comes to the, like, this isn't quite up there with Zero Escape, but it comes pretty dang close. And it
just you wait.
But it just makes me realize that murder mystery visual novel is like the subgenre that I love very much.
Yeah, murder mysteries are great, and like, again, the only thing I wish is that I had more agency in the story. I don't mind like going through like a predetermined story, but when I went in, I wanted to have more of an impact.
Yeah, no, I get it,
but it's okay. It's still a great time.
It's extremely fun.
Well, next on our list.
May I also recommend Raging Loop someday?
All right. Raging Loop. Is that on everything? I know it's on like Switch and PC. Is it on anything else?
I played it on Switch. I don't know about elsewhere.
Okay.
Well, I will pick that up because I legitimately Googled games like Zero Escape and Danganronpa the other day so that I could play more games like this. So, well,
in the meantime, Pat, you weren't here last week.
Mm-hmm.
You got a little cornucopia of games to share with us today.
Yeah, although pretty much all of them were played this week. Yeah, no, I did start playing one of them last week again. Yeah. So yeah, I will get the oldest game on this list out of the way first because I don't have a ton of stuff to share on it. But earlier last week, or I guess it was a few weeks ago now, that my partner started playing WoW Classic again.
What are you doing?
Classic. Well, she just really loves she has played a lot of that game in the past, significantly more than me. And one of her friends was playing it, and it was like, it's a very good quarantine game. It fulfills a lot of similar, it tickles a lot of the same brain nerves, I think, that like Animal Crossing does, because there's a lot of like, you're running around, you're collecting things, you're the fights are very methodical and stuff.
Attacked by giant spiders.
And then her friend was like, well, I got to log on to retail and do some of this stuff last week, and was just explaining some of the stuff. And I was like, wow, that looks kind of cool. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try again. And so then we ended up playing like a lot of current modern World of Warcraft. And it's very funny because, aside from fuck Blizzard for all of the Blitzchung stuff, but aside from that, at BlizzCon last year, I just like relentlessly made fun of the trailer for the new expansion for a while, because I was like, this is so stupid. Why are they releasing yet another expansion? Who's going to do this? Turns out the stuff that's coming in that expansion sounds really cool, and basically like the full transformation of WoW into WoW 2, even though it doesn't have a 2 on the end of it. And the way that game at this point is like a really cool co-op open world RPG, basically, because part of it is that there's a double XP event right now, but I'm like level 82 now after playing for a week and a half.
What's it go up to now? 120 or something?
120 is the cap. Yeah. And so like basically because of the way they scale the world now, everything scales to you. So you can do any zone you want whenever you want. So it's kind of like, Skyrim or something where you can just go anywhere in the world that you think looks cool and then start playing that content. And it still is a very like skill rotation, action bar heavy game in terms of the combat. And it's still a lot of like, oh, I got this thing that gives me another +4 damage or whatever. But it's pretty fun and satisfying to clear those zones. The writing is pretty good in Warcraft, like in WoW. That's always been the case. So the quest descriptions are pretty funny to read. And it's just generally like I don't think I would want to play it with more than one other person, but like to go around the world and do quests and stuff. But playing with 2 people means that the quests are like super fast. So you can just sort of play these zones and then go and get a totally different aesthetic somewhere. And like, it feels different. There's a lot of cool stuff that's like fun carrot on sticks to chase in the most recent expansion that's out, even though that was generally pretty middling to a lot of people. They have these they're called allied races where you build rep with certain factions and then you can play as a sort of like slightly different, it's kind of a reskin, but it's cool reskins of existing races that have different traits and like unique abilities and racial mounts and stuff. So there's just it's fun to play. And the new expansion is wild because they're crunching the level curve back down to 60 as the cap, and making it so that each level takes longer to earn, but each level you get far more meaningful rewards. So you're making choices like every 2 or 3 levels instead of like every 15 levels like it is now. And the weirder thing is you can, if you want to, you can just play it like it is now with the curve down to 1 to 60 and 50 being like the start of the Shadowlands content, which is the new expansion. You could just go around Azeroth like you can now and play any content, it'll scale. Also, though, you can start a character and there is a new starting zone for Horde and Alliance that's just like a single starting zone for each faction instead of the racial starting zones. And while you could go to your racial starting zone, you can also just start in that starting zone. And for the first 10 levels, you learn to play your class and learn all the mechanics. And then from there, you can talk to this time traveling gnome named Chromie, and you can just say like she'll be like, oh, this is what happened. This is this is what happened in WoW retail and or the first WoW without any expansions. And then she'll just send you on like the storyline of World of Warcraft. And then you can say, well, I want to know the story of Burning Crusade. And she'll send you on the storyline of Burning Crusade. So you can still play it as an open world game if you want to, or you can have her time travel you to the different moments when the expansions were out to play their specific storylines on a more guided track, which is a really cool thing because WoW's story is ridiculous and not something that is like I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's like secretly a really amazing story. It's like Kingdom Hearts kind of, in that it's real dumb, goes all over the place, and is really fucking comic book.
Lots of like aliens.
Oh yeah, like right now there's the world got Sargeras stabbed a sword in the world. So there's a zone in WoW now that just has this huge fucking sword sticking out of it, like real Asura's Wrath type shit has happened in the last expansion.
Also, there's pandas in some point. Just that's all I know.
They live on the back of a giant turtle.
Yes, they do. The panda stuff was like when WoW's story started to really go off the rails. Prior to like Cataclysm was like, holy shit, this huge dragon fucking wrecked the world and like changed the face of the planet. Now it's like there's like the last expansion is like there's like a world that is sentient, and all of the worlds have spirits in them, and these titanic space gods try to like crack open planets and like drink their spirit juice, and Azeroth has super powerful spirit juice, so Sargeras wants the spirit juice, but there's like other titans that want to defend it, and like there's like raids in space and stuff, and like spaceships, and it's Wait,
are the spaceships from StarCraft?
No, they're like
I was gonna say, are the Zerg there, or the
no, there's no tie-in with that. You would think this is not a like
StarCraft 3.
Yeah, no. So anyway, I find the story enjoyable in the way that a kind of bad comic book can be, or anime can be enjoyable, and that it's like, this is fucking ridiculous, but it's over the top, but it's pretty well told. Again, like one thing Blizzard has is a good writing staff. They don't necessarily come up with the best stories, but their dialogue writing and stuff has always been quite good. So anyway, I think the new expansion sounds interesting. The new expansion is a little less cosmic. It's more like you go to the realm of the dead, which is fun because it means they can bring back lots of characters who have died. And there's a new stuff, like it sounds pretty huge in terms of the amount of content it adds. And they're adding this dungeon that's basically like a roguelike dungeon where it changes every time. And you can play it solo or in a group, and it's like different challenges every time you go through it. It sounds like kind of like Rogue Legacy in a way, because you're like, there's certain things you can upgrade outside of the dungeon and stuff. So I don't know. It's been fun to play that game as like a co-op game with my partner for sure. I think like I'm not sitting here saying everyone should get into WoW in 2020, but I will admit that I was wrong, and it is cooler right now than I thought it was.
It's probably a dark time for a lot of lapsed WoW players.
Yeah, and I think whereas I thought the game was very much on its last legs after this last expansion was kind of received tepidly, I think if anything, it sounds like as long as they can execute well with Shadowlands, it's sort of going to be the thing that maybe gives that game new life. Maybe not draws people back in, but gives that game new life, at least for people who have been playing it.
They're bringing WoW back from the land of the dead.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The combat's fun, and it helps that I'm playing with someone who is way better and more familiar with the game than me, because she's done everything basically except for the most recent expansion. So she kind of can like help guide us. Like I basically like, oh, this sounds like a cool place to go, and she'll be like, yeah, it sounds great, and we'll go there. And she's very good at making the quests go fast without rushing too much. So yeah, so it's fun.
Well, how about you tell us about something new, Pat? God.
Yeah. So I've played a couple other games. I also kind of want to briefly hit on a game called Spin Rhythm XD, which entered early access.
RXD.
Yeah, entered early access last fall, and is still in early access, but they added custom songs recently to it. So they had a big discount with that. So I picked it up this past week. It is a rhythm game. If that wasn't apparent from its name.
Does it make you go XD?
No, it has a difficulty mode called XD though, which is like the ultra hard difficulty that when you look at the leaderboards, it's clear that no one is maxing out the scores for that. It is clearly very hard. It is one of the coolest rhythm games that I have played in a very long time, for sure. I think if you have any kind of love for that genre, you should absolutely check it out, because it's doing some really cool things. So it's like very unique. It's designed so that you can play it with any kind of controller. So you can play it with a mouse. I'm playing with a mouse and keyboard right now, which is actually really fun, as weird as that sounds for a rhythm game. You can also play it with a MIDI controller that has a spin wheel on it. So if you have like a MIDI DJ deck, you can play it with that. All that you need is to have a spin wheel with touch sensitivity. and you can also play it with a Xbox controller or whatever, and it works. I'm told it works well with those. I need to try it with that.
No DJ Hero controller.
No, DJ Hero controllers don't work with it, but it's because the wheel needs to be able to spin freely, like around and around, and the DJ Hero controller can't do that. It has like locks, so it almost would work, but I think they're like kind of committed to the spinning, so that I don't know that they're going to put that in. It also is just a very different game than DJ Hero. It sounds, when you first hear about it sounds like it would be like the remedy for no DJ Hero 3, but in reality it is very different and unique. So basically you have a lane that looks like any other rhythm game with notes that look kind of like Guitar Hero or Rock Band notes coming at you. You have a wheel at your end, and it has two colors, red and blue, although I think there's colorblind mode so you can change the colors, but and the wheel rotates. For me, I'm using a mouse, so I move the mouse back and forth to rotate the wheel. And the most basic action is to make sure that the notes coming at you, you have the color. The wheel is split into like gates, so it's like there's red and blue alternating around the wheel, and each gate is like about half the width of the play field or the lane. So if you imagine like a circle that's like red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and you're rotating it around. So the most basic interaction is to make sure that you have the right colored part of the wheel sort of catching the notes that match its color, which is very simple, but there's a lot of like fun, like, because it alternates, if you have like something that's far on one side of the lane and one that's far on the other side of the lane, it might actually make sense for you to rotate further to the left to catch the next alternating color. But that's just the most simple interaction. There's also tapping, where you have to click the mouse button or push a button or tap your DJ wheel as a note comes over the wheel. There are hold notes where you have to hold the button down and move the wheel with a trail. There's spin notes which are more common, where you have to click and like drag the wheel in a spin. Obviously if you're playing with like a DJ deck, you would just touch it and spin it. And then you always end up having to catch it well, not always, but usually you have to then catch it with a tap note at the end. There are scratch sections where you hold the button down and move the wheel back and forth. There's off beat, like there's times when on mouse and keyboard you have to hit the space bar, but you could set it to whatever button you want, and it looks like a kick drum beat from Rock Band that goes across the lane. So ultimately the result is like you feel the music a lot, because it's got all these different kinds of interactions, and they start to become, the visual language is very strong, so they start to become like second nature, and you get into that kind of flow state that you get with the best rhythm games. And I think it's super, super effective and fun, and the way they layer the difficulty is really great. Like easy difficulty is still fun to play, it just only uses like the match, tap, and spin actions, and then normal they start to add holds, and then hard they start to add the like kick drum spacebar beat, and then when it gets to expert and XD, gets ridiculous. And it has an original soundtrack right now. There's 30 songs in the soundtrack. It's all variations on electronic music. Mm-hmm. So it has some like really cool artists like Too Mellow and Pegboard Nerds and Hyper Potions. It has some of the music from Just Shapes and Beats in it, actually, which just a few tracks, but cool. Those are really fun to play. And generally is like, if you don't like electronic music, you're probably going to not dig the soundtrack, but they did just add custom songs as well. So
how does the custom song stuff work? Is it just is it like audio surf, put in an MP3 and it makes a track, or they have
to be authored? You can, the editor, I haven't messed with the editor, but I think the editor is it's right there in the game menu. It's not like a separate launcher. So I think the editor is fairly easy to work with. And there is already a website up that called SpinShare, where people are putting downloadable tracks, and they built a custom tool so you can install the tool and it'll help you import tracks into the game. So it's already got that infrastructure going. It just needs more of those tracks built. And it thankfully is part of building SpinShare is there is some sort of, I'm not a dev, so it was hard for me to parse some of it, but I'm in their Discord. And one of the parts of the project was developing a tool to translate a lot of the stuff from OS into this. So if you have like OS beat maps, then you can use them. You can get part of the way to translating them to a spin rhythm beat map, because there are some similar interactions in both of those games. So it's really cool. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's really affordable. It's $20 normally. I got it for like $12 on sale. It's still in early access. They still have development to do. They said they're probably going to be in early access for another 6 months or so. But it is already super, super, super recommendable. I've played through the soundtrack 1.5 times, once on easy, and then I'm working through it on normal. And it's just very, very satisfying to play. And it's a really good like break. I've been using it like if I start to lose focus when I'm working, I'll play a song or two of spin rhythm rather than like look at Twitter or something, because the songs are really snappy and short, and it's very easy to jump in, play a song, and then jump out, take 5 minutes. So yeah, it just works well for that. And again, it's like one of the only times I've ever played a rhythm game with a mouse and keyboard and found it like my preferred way to play. So yeah, that one I recommend quite heavily. I assume it'll come to consoles at some point too, but I don't know if it'll come with the song editor.
Probably not.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that PC is probably the way to go if you want the sound editor or song editor. Definitely put it on my Steam wish list. So
I assume it would run on anything.
Yeah, around April Fool's last year, someone put like how to get custom Beat Saber songs on PS4. And I think it involved them like cracking an egg into their PC.
That's funny.
Like, damn.
But yeah, the last thing that I can talk about a bit is I have been playing a lot of Riot's new team-based tactical shooter, Valorant.
Counter-Strike.
Yeah. It entered closed beta last week on, I think the 7th was when they started giving out keys kind of en masse. There was like a very small intro closed beta group the week before that, but they had a weird method of getting into the beta, which I think we'll probably start seeing more now, because it has led to a pretty successful beta where they were giving out keys to people who watched Twitch streams, which was a little brutal, because all I can say is I'm very glad that this happened while data caps are suspended, because I ended up having Twitch streams open for a long time. But I eventually got in last Saturday, it was like last Friday or Saturday. And fortunately have a group of people to play with, because this game is a Counter-Strike. Like
very much so.
It is the foundation of the game is just Counter-Strike.
So do you move faster if you're holding the knife?
Yes.
Okay. It's a Counter-Strike game.
Literally it is the guide. I read a guide that really helped improve my game. And it talked about how in Counter-Strike, when you strafe, you hold down both buttons and then release one. And I didn't know that, because it's actually faster to stop if you do it that way rather than holding one button, letting go, because your momentum carries. Yep. That is one of the only differences in Valorant at a base level, is that in Valorant, it doesn't matter if you hold both strafe keys. Like you can just hold one, push one, and it's the same stop distance from momentum. But the momentum stop is almost the same as it is in Counter-Strike. It is the same kind of game where, every round you're buying weapons, the weapons map to Counter-Strike weapons. There is a powerful sniper rifle that kills people in one hit called the Operator in Valorant. There is the base bullpup assault rifle is called a Bulldog, which is the same as the AUG from Counter-Strike. Like, it is the same game at its core as Counter-Strike. And at first I was a little put off by that, but I actually think Blizzard, Valve, and Riot are companies that ape each other. Like basically they've all built empires off of mods that their communities made in the late 90s and early 2000s. So like
that's not wrong, actually.
It's like, you know, Overwatch's Team Fortress 2, which was a mod of a game, and like Hearthstone is kind of taking a lot of stuff from physical trading card games that Legends of Runeterra is building off of, and you know, League is a takeoff of Dota, and so I don't know.
Dota 2 is a takeoff of Dota,
and Artifact is a takeoff of Hearthstone. Like, it's
there's just a lot of kind of intermingling with ideas.
so
Turtles all the way down.
So much of what they do. Turtles. I mean, I it's in some ways in that triangle, I give credit to Valve because they tend to just hire the modders to make professional versions of their mods. But whatever, it doesn't bother me that Valorant is Counter-Strike at its core, because Counter-Strike is a game. I love the concept of tactical shooters, Siege and Counter-Strike being the most prevalent ones, but the community around Counter-Strike is so off-putting to me at this point, and it's so hard to enter that world. They're at a base level, because Valorant is cartoony and bright colors and you know, not terrorists and counter-terrorists kind of thing. It is more appealing and kind of feels like a new entry point, even though it draws so much from CS. So anyway, if you're not really much of a CS player, these games are, CS is, and Valorant by extension is a 5v5 game. There on the maps, there are bomb sites. One side is trying to plant a bomb. The other side is trying to keep them from planting the bomb and either time them out or defuse the bomb once it's planted. You have 1 life per round. So you also, rounds frequently end just with one team killing the other team. In Valorant, the rounds are 1.5 minutes. I don't know for sure if that's how long the rounds are in Counter-Strike or not. Because I've only played DMs in Counter-Strike in the last 10 years. They're very quick rounds, and they need to be quick because the game is first to 13 wins.
Oh God.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Holy crap.
It is not short games. After 12 rounds, you switch sides, and the economy resets. These games also have an economy. So every round, when you start the game, you have a basic pistol and a knife. And when you get kills, when you win or lose a round, when you plant the spike is what it's called in Valorant, not bomb, you get currency, money that you use to buy weapons and armor. So a lot of the game is managing when it's the right round to buy and sell. A lot of it is communicating it with your teammate. If your teammates all want to just roll with pistols to save for a round and they don't expect to win, it doesn't make sense for you to blow all your money on an operator, because you're not going to do a whole lot with that when the rest of your team has pistols. So,
okay. Sorry, question about
the
Counter-Strike-ness of it. Can you pick up enemies' weapons that they have dropped?
Absolutely. That is a key strategy. Is great. If you survive and kill an enemy that has a better gun than you should pick it up because it's free money. Yeah. Yep, that is absolutely a thing. The game, there's things like you're wildly inaccurate when moving. You really need to stop and plant your feet before you shoot. If someone is spraying down a hallway at you, you're going to kill them faster if you peek out behind the corner and stop moving, take aim carefully, and fire. You're going to win the shootout over them spraying. It's absolutely not a game about spraying bullets. It's a game about like very careful shooting. You can die in a couple of shots, even if you have full heavy armor. So it is very important to play tactically. There's a lot of concepts of holding angles where you don't really roam around the map. Most of your team will probably be posted up, holding an angle, waiting for someone to come around a corner or whatever. That's why things like vision are really important, and communication is really, really important because everyone needs to be on the same page. It's the first game in a long time where I've used public voice chat because you kind of have to if you want to win. A team of 5 people that are not speaking to each other are going to lose to a team that is even half the team talking to each other. Yeah. I've only had one out of 30, 40 games at this point, at least. I've only had one instance where I had to like tell someone to fuck off and mute them. I would say to anyone playing this game, if you're 1 in 12 at the end of a round, have 1 kill and 12 deaths, maybe don't tell people how to play the game. And especially don't scream at them. But yeah, it's cool. So the biggest difference between Counter-Strike and Valorant is that Valorant has character abilities and kits.
So like Overwatch.
Like Overwatch, but I am hesitant to compare it as heavily to Overwatch as you'll see people compare, because in some ways it's more like League, because the abilities are they're very situational. In Overwatch, it's like if you're playing as Junkrat, you're probably throwing explosives everywhere all the time. In Valorant, the way you have 4 abilities in Valorant.
Wouldn't it be more like Call of Duty Black Ops and those characters? Really,
the abilities are like grenades in Counter-Strike. They replace that. There are no grenades in Valorant. Well, there are, but they're tied to characters. So to give you an example, the character that I'm playing is called Phoenix. He's my favorite character by far.
Is that his last name? Is his first name Marcus?
No, I think his first name. I think he's like just a really cool like British guy that is super slick, and so every character has 4 abilities. You have 1 signature ability that you always have access to, at least at the start of the round. How you recharge that signature ability changes by character. So like Phoenix's signature ability is you hit the E key and he pulls out like a fireball and you throw it, and then it's like a Molotov. It lights a certain area of ground on fire, and then he can stand in it and it heals him. If enemies stand in it or your teammates stand in it, they take damage. There is no team damage from guns, but your abilities do damage your team.
That's a very MOBA-y kind of
yeah. So that's his signature ability. To get it back, it comes back at the start of every round. But if you're in round and you want to use it again, you have to get 2 kills to recharge it. So that's how that recharges. He also has if you hit C, he drops a wall of fire briefly that does the same thing as his ground fire. If he stands in it, it heals him. If enemies walk through it, it damages them. And it also blocks vision. So it sort of is like a damaging smoke grenade but because it has that vision block, but it's in a straight line. So that costs 200 credits, and you can only buy 1 of them per round. So you can save it between rounds, even if you die, but you can only buy 1 per round, and it's 200 credits.
Even if you die, interesting.
Yes. He also has an ability called Curveball, which is wild and cool, where he snaps his finger and then throws a flash grenade around a corner, but it curves. And it's very specific how it curves. So like the first 10 games you play as Phoenix, you're going to bounce it off the wall and flash yourself when you're trying to send it around a door or a corner. You also have to tell your team that you're flashing, because it will blind them as well. And the blind is super short. So it's like in one motion, you got to throw it and then move around the corner and try to take a shot. Those cost 100 credits, and you can buy 2 of them per round or save them.
It's exactly the same as Counter-Strike.
Yep. And then he has an ultimate ability, and every character, the way they refill their ultimate ability is it has a certain number of pips. You fill a pip by either getting a kill, dying, so you will get it even if you suck eventually, or there are orbs around the map that are considered like objectives, like in a MOBA that you fight over, where you can collect them and get an ultimate pip. So Phoenix's ultimate is...
I thought it was like Crackdown.
Oh, no. They do kind of look like Crackdown orbs. Phoenix's ultimate is you hit the X button. He says, I forget the voice line. It's like Overwatch. When you ult, they say a global voice line so the other team knows you're ulting. And
I'm shitting.
Yeah. And then Phoenix, for a pretty short window, you only get about like 6 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, something like that. You can move around, shoot as normal, but if you die or if the timer goes out, you go back to the point that you ulted from. So it's like a free life to go and scout, basically. And you can still shoot guns, so you can scout and get a kill. And it's free. You're free to move in that time. Because if you die, you're just going to go back to where your body was. So there's like a healer character whose signature ability is she heals someone, and she has a 35-second cooldown on her heal, which in a minute-and-a-half round means she will at most get to use it twice. Her ultimate is a res. Her C is a crystal wall that blocks vision, and you have to shoot through it to get through it. And then her, what is her other? Oh, a slow field. She like throws an orb and it breaks into ice on the ground and slows people. There's a character named Cypher who can throw a camera at a wall, and then he can look down the camera to see vision on an angle. And there's a character named Sova whose ult is like he fires 3 arrows through walls that go through walls and damage people. So basically, these character abilities give you a clear. This is what I think makes the game more approachable than Counter-Strike is. When I pick Phoenix, I know that it's going to be my job to go first and to flash stuff and to ult to get scouting done and stuff like that. Versus going into Counter-Strike and it being like, well, first now we have to communicate what our roles are going to be. And then I think the character abilities are also just a fun twist on. They give the game, for me, I'm more excited about its lifetime because they're going to add new characters and stuff. So. Right. That means there'll be new pieces to learn. But I think it's a pretty brilliant game from a gameplay perspective. It's borrowing parts from other things. So it's hard to say it's like the most original game, but it's been really fun to play with people that I know. I've so far played with at least one friend at a time. But most of the games that I've played have been with 4 or 5 people all talking in Discord and really communicating about stuff. I'm learning lots of terms. Like I never knew what the term lit meant. I mean, I knew what the term lit meant, but I didn't know what the term lit in a video game meant. Because it turns out it's a lot faster to say Sage is lit 45 on site at B than it is to say I dealt 45 damage to Sage at the B site. I'm learning about more about angle holding. I bought a giant mouse pad because as someone who's mostly played Modern Warfare and Overwatch for shooters the last couple of years, I play with high sensitivity, but it turns out in games like this, you actually want ultra low sensitivity. Yeah. So now I have this ginormous mouse pad, and when I play Valorant, I have to move my arm 6 to 8 inches to turn around, which is weird, but it's becoming very natural now, and I'm really enjoying having that better understanding. It's fun to learn about how I always thought of CS as the you have to be like an aimbot god and then you'll be the best. It's fun to learn about how in fact actually it's all about positioning, and the skill ceiling for aiming you actually nail pretty early on compared to most players. Obviously there's insane pros that can just destroy, but it's fun to learn that it's so much more about communication and positioning and proper ability usage than it is about twitch aiming ability, which is cool. So yeah, I don't know, it's fun, it's good. There's nitty gritty stuff, it has 128 tick servers is a big thing that they're pumping up, which I don't know enough about server architecture to understand completely how that affects ping times, but the idea is that they want people playing this game to be under 30 ping whenever they're playing it.
That's good. Yeah, it's pretty common for 100 tick servers in most Counter-Strike.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It feels good. I don't get to play with that kind of ping very often because I'm playing with people on the East Coast. So usually it centers to a server in their region. But I'm still getting 60 millisecond ping, which is pretty good. The couple of games that I have played solo or with people over this side, you do get 30 milliseconds of ping, and it feels like it's amazing for a game like this, for sure. It's very smooth. So yeah, I think it is. I'm excited to see it continue to develop. I think there's some interesting stuff. I've seen people complain about the visuals. there was a lively discussion on the Giant Bombcast this week about how the game, quote, looks like shit. And I've heard that from other people. And I think my response is like, I don't think you get it, my friends. Because like this game is designed to run on any kind of hardware. It's not.
It's also beta or alpha or whatever it is.
I don't think the visuals are going to change. People keep saying that, but I don't think like when you play it a lot, you start to really grasp like there is a reason that the abilities look very flat. And it's because they're trying to do something specific with vision and control. So when Jet throws a smoke and it's just a flat gray orb, that's like, they're not using particle effects because they want it to be clear that like, this is the smoked space. You can't see through it.
And it's probably much easier to design it that way instead of making sure that different graphical options all maintain the same level of like shit going on. Otherwise you end up with like, was it Quake, where everyone just turned all their settings down to like super low and everyone's just triangles running around the map, or PUBG, where people turn down their like, foliage and
the foliage,
stuff like that.
So I think I actually hope they leave it the way it is. I think it looks fine. It conveys information really, really well. The one dumb thing about the visuals is that the game it has blood in it. I didn't even realize it was blood. It's just like a red, like it's barely recognizable as blood, but it is important because it shows you when you're hitting unarmored segments of the body. So later in the game, it'll denote headshots for you. And there's a little audio cue too, but for esports events, they're requiring, because for the first, sort of like with League, they're not opening it up with like the Valorant Pro series or whatever. They're going to be they're looking to the community to do tournaments, more like CS or Dota, that they'll sponsor and support, but that they're not organizing their own league for it at launch because they don't want to. It makes sense. It's not great to say like, we're releasing an esport game and join our esport league. You kind of got to let the community like determine whether it's and then in a few years maybe they can take that effort, hire those people and build their own league like they did with League of Legends. But anyway, for one of the standards for community events, you have to turn off the blood, which is like
interesting.
Why even put it in there in the first place? Because there's still feedback. It's sparks instead of blood that fly off people. Just make that the default.
Well, yeah, especially if that's like your default.
You're censoring the creators, Pat.
They're censoring themselves. They're censoring the community with their it's so funny.
That's bizarre.
That seems weird though. Like, I don't know. Like that seems like if you're playing a Dota or something or a League and like they're like, oh, but you have to turn off last hit animations or something. Like
it's weird for sure.
Yeah, like it's just weird.
And like, why is it there?
Exactly. That's the thing is I don't think it would have been weird if they just hadn't put blood in the first place. And there's a lot of like, well, it's because of Tencent, but like whatever. It's because of ESPN. It's not because of Tencent. They won't show Counter-Strike on ESPN because it's terrorists and counter-terrorists and people's heads explode. So like it is the reason they're having you turn off blood is because they want to put it on TV.
Right.
Well, actually, I'm not allowed to make any criticisms of Tencent because of the company I work for. So yeah, it's great. Good job, Valorant. That sounds perfect.
Anyway, yeah, given that, never mind. So yeah, I don't know. No, I'm pretty hype on it. I'm hoping that my friends continue to play it. I think that's the thing for me is like, I need to have people to play it with. And so I'm not solo queuing all the time. But I'm also hoping I get good enough that I start to feel confident playing in solo queues. Right now, matchmaking is a mess because it's closed beta. So they're still developing the way that they're tracking MMR, and there is an MMR system in there. Oh,
so there's ranked.
But there isn't ranked yet.
Okay.
Weird. I guess I shouldn't say. They've been pretty quiet about how the matchmaking works from what I have seen. But when I play with I'm playing with a group of, in total, I think there's like, let me think. No, there's 5 of us now. But for when 4 of us play, it is we do pretty well. We have really close games, and we win. We're at like a 50% win rate, just what you'd want. When the 5th dude joins, all of a sudden we get trashed, and it's because we're pretty sure it's because he has really high MMR. And he is significantly better at the game than the rest of us. So it's still fun to play with him. I'd rather play with him and get trashed and try to get better than not play with him. But but he's just better at shooters than the rest of us. And has been playing Counter-Strike for a long time.
I would assume that the way the queuing works is that if you're 5, it's going to match you against 5. So the coordination between 5 people in the same Discord is always going to be better than just 4 plus a random.
Yeah. But you know, even we have pretty good, our communication is not really the issue when it comes to why we're getting trashed. It's more like, now it feels like I'm playing against aimbots. Cause they're just so good at it. So I suspect there is some kind of matchmaking happening, but it's hard to say for sure. They are adding a ranked mode soon. They have done a really smart job, I will say.
That seems weird for a beta.
Okay. I mean, it's to test it. It's to the game is out in like 2 months, so it's not going to be a super long beta.
Is it going to be free to play?
Yes. And so far the model looks like it's almost entirely just cosmetics, unlike League. There are 9 characters in the game. You get 5 of them out of the gate. As you level up, you unlock 2 of them pretty quickly within like 5 or 6 hours of play. And then to get the other 3 or 2, my numbers might be off. I can't remember off the top of my head, but to get the other characters, and I think this is going to be generally how you'll unlock characters as new ones come out, you have to activate their contract, and then you gain experience points. And the first 4 levels of their contract are, and there's always like I assume it'll be like a battle pass when the game comes out. Right now it's like the closed beta rewards or whatever. There's that you're leveling, and then a character contract that you're leveling at the same time. And the first 4 levels of the character contracts are cosmetics for like player cards, titles, that kind of thing. And then the 5th level, you unlock the character. You can buy the levels for $2 each. Maybe it's $1 each, but anyway, so you can buy into the characters quickly if you want to, but you can also unlock them for free. And it takes some time, but it's not as much time as like unlocking a League character for free. It's way quicker than that. It's like 5 or 6 hours to unlock a character, maybe, rather than like 20. So I think they mostly want you to unlock the characters for free, less than buy them. But the gun skins are fucking expensive. They're like worse than Apex Legends expensive. You can purchase a bundle right now for $50 that has like 5 gun skins in it.
What are they cool? Do they have like
good art? Yeah,
particle effects or something?
Do they shoot unicorns?
So they do change like reload animations. Like they are, because the silhouette of the gun that your opponent has doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
It's more the sound effect that matters. So, so they do some wild stuff with some of the guns, and then the gun skins like level up and stuff too, and get like more elaborate as you play them.
That's very Dota.
Yeah.
So like that's very Dota.
I'm not gonna say that the gun skins aren't very cool, but they're way too expensive.
Do they level up?
$50 for
like
5 is absurd.
Yeah, they're about.
Do they
$10
level up
a scout.
per account or in a match?
Per account.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Because they've done some stuff with like League where as you play with like some of the more expensive skins over the course of a match, as you level up, the skin will like change.
Yeah.
No, you actually are using another currency to level them up in this game that you could buy with real money too.
Okay, that's
my God.
That just reminds me of like I haven't played League, but in Dota they had the Arcanas and stuff.
Yes.
Like you had the PA Arcana where as you got more kills, like it would go from blue to red and like stuff like that.
I am sure they will do stuff like that with gun skins in this game too.
Yeah.
So and I will say again, like the art is very good for the guns, and you know the thing that when I scoffed at paying $10 for a League character skin years ago, a thing that a friend of mine pointed out was, if you play a lot of League of Legends, you look at that character for hundreds, maybe thousands of hours.
Yep.
So $10 to make them look different is not that crazy. And I think the same thing is kind of true here, where like you're going to be like, I will probably buy a Vandal skin at some point, which is the AK equivalent in this game, because I use that gun every game a lot. So to make it look different and prettier is cool.
Right. And if it's a good, not pay to win kind of free to play game, then it's like, you know, you're getting a bunch of enjoyment out of it for free. So
totally. But I will say that the skins, I'm not going to tell you that the skins are not wildly expensive.
That seems like a lot. Like,
I will probably end up buying some of them. And I will say for beta, they're doing a kind of cool thing where I don't know if you lose the skin, but any points that you spend in the beta are going to be they're going to come back to you at the end of the beta. You're going to get them back. You don't get the money back, but if you bought $50 in points, you'll get $50 in points plus 20% on top of whatever you spent.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's
I
neat.
think that they're thinking maybe they're going to change the prices on skins, and I don't know if you get to keep
jack
the skins
them
you
up.
bought. We'll see.
20%.
Good.
Oh,
But I assume they're going to change the pricing on skins. So to get out in front of that, they are saying, "Hey, don't worry, you're going to get your money back or your points back." To spend
right. You'll get your money's worth, like even if we adjust this pretty significantly.
And it was weird that they did the Twitch stream thing to give people access to the beta, but also it meant that they had a steady stream of players coming in that they could control like super easily. And I think it was really smart to do it that way, because it meant that there was the only time they had real downtime due to server load was the first day. And then
they can also linearly kind of predict how many players are going to be by the end, rather than just shoving all of them in at once. That's like, I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah. So that has worked really well. It's meant that the gameplay has been really smooth. There's some bugs, of course. There was a hilarious bug where the character with the spy camera, you could throw the camera a pistol, and then the camera could hold the pistol and shoot people from the camera, which is extremely broken.
I like
phenomenal.
that.
I kind of dig that.
We threw when I was playing with my friends, we threw a shotgun, the shorty, the like pistol shotgun to the camera and did not get a kill.
Wait, sorry. Does it shoot on its own?
No, you control it because the camera will. And I don't know how this is supposed to work, because I've seen it work both ways. It's bugged one way or the other, but you put the camera on a wall and then it'll give you vision on the mini map down a corridor, but you can also take control of the camera as that player to manually point it.
That makes sense.
So it would be holding the gun and then you could shoot the gun from that view.
Really funny.
I just want to imagine being on the other team and being like, wait, that's a camera. And it's shooting at you.
Yes. So there's been some bugs like that. There was a point on the map at one point where you could like hide your body behind some TVs up against a wall. So it was basically like you could get yourself stuck up there if you had someone boost you up with a crystal wall. That was one of the abilities.
Yeah.
And you could just hide up there. And it's like in these games, verticals are hard to deal with. Like it's hard to deal with someone being above you, because you have such a short amount of time to change where you're looking that it's goes from being like one plane of space to move your mouse across to being two. And usually you'll lose if someone is looking at you down from above or below you and you're looking up or whatever.
To be fair, that also exists in Counter-Strike. Well, I guess with that in mind, does it have like, how are the maps? Like, is there a Dust 2 equivalent that like everyone loves? Or is it just...
Well, there's 3 maps right now.
Okay.
So one of them is just Counter-Strike. It is like, it's not like a one-to-one recreation of a Counter-Strike map, but it has that feel of it where it's 2 sites. There's a large building in the middle that you can use to kind of it's like almost symmetrical. There's 2 sites and then there's a thing in the middle, and you can kind of see it's got a heaven. That's what the Counter-Strike term is for a high point to look down from, that you can see down into the site from 2 places.
Does it have a short A and a long A?
Yes, every site has a short and long, and that's what they call them on the map officially too.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah, there are specific like. Does Dust 2 have a hookah? Is that?
Not familiar with it. If it does,
Okay. There's a map in Valorant that has a room called hookah. That is you like two at hookah is a pretty common term. So anyway, there's that map that is very Counter-Strike. I guess in that map, actually, there is a mid, and then A site has a long, and B site has a short. It's not symmetrical in that way, but it is pretty Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Then there is a map that has 3 sites.
Oh, interesting.
Which is kind of wild and very hard to play at first. So it has A, B, and C with B in the middle, and A and C. A and C each have a long and short, and then there's just mid for the B site.
And Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
AMC. Anyways.
And then the third map is a 2-site map, but what's cool is it has an A and B short and long for each site. Yeah. Without the sort of middle. You can still get to the sites through a connected middle piece, but it doesn't have the same like raised thing in the middle. But it has teleporters that are one way.
What?
So you can rotate from A to B or B to A, but the teleporters are in different spots. And like there's one teleporter in the middle that goes from A to B, and then a teleporter that goes on the outside from B to A. And the teleporter doors you can shoot through them. You can't open them from the outside. But it makes a noise when you teleport. So if someone's standing outside of the teleporter, they'll know you've just come through, and they can spray through the door and potentially kill you, but they can't open the door to get in. So when you combine it with like someone can give you vision through a wall with an ability on a character, and you can rotate through a teleporter, you can like teleport and kill them before you can even see them for real. And it's very cool the way that stuff works. But the maps are interesting for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah. So my hope is that they continue to come up with a unique idea for each map like this, instead of just making a bunch of like, it's fine if they only ship with 5 maps if each map is unique, is kind of my feeling. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I like it a lot. We can talk in news. They have some anti-cheat stuff that is tough.
Yeah, I also have a key for this game, but I'm not going to play it. Not for the time being. But that's Valorant, and I think it's.
Do you see it becoming a big esport game, like a with a big sizable following?
I think it depends on how willing people are to leave Counter-Strike behind, kind of. There have been some notable pros who have already said they're doing that. But I think that people are going to see this game and go, oh, I like the art style. And because the characters are cool, even they're some of them are kind of samey, but they're cool. And I think people are going to see it and go like, oh, it's got this like slick art style. It's Riot. I should play this game. And then they're going to play 2 games of it and go, I hate this. Because it is so much a tactical shooter.
I also kind of worry, like they're very much positioning it as an esports game, like from the get-go. Like it seems like that's kind of what was designed with in mind. And the last game I can think of that did that was Evolve. And people were really into that for like a week or 2, and then it just kind of crashed and died. And it was a good game, but
it was a good game. As someone who's into Evolve, I think this is a better game. I think the thing it's going to do is, I think there's probably a lot of people like me that exist that like.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Of tactical shooters, not necessarily like me, but that like the concept of tactical shooters and want to play them, but find Counter-Strike impenetrable, and Siege is more approachable than Counter-Strike. But the thing about Siege is like the rounds are pretty long, so when you're bad at it, it sucks because you end up watching people play for like 4 minutes before you get to spawn again. And it's also now Siege has like 5 years of characters not that many, but like 3, 4, something like that. And each character pass is like $20. So if you want to just like go all in and have access to all the Siege characters, it's like $100. It goes on sale a lot, so that's not.
Yeah, they've got bundles and stuff, but the bundles are weird.
And it's I mean, seriously, as someone who like checks in on Siege every year or so, and I usually just like get the characters that have come out, just because I don't want to be in a position where I want to play that game in 3 years and I have to spend $80 to get back in. So I'd rather spend $20 a year at some point. It's expensive to get into Siege now if you haven't played it at all. And you really do want the breadth of characters, because Siege characters get more interesting every year. So like, it kind of sucks to just be able to play the base characters. So the fact that Valorant is free to play and kind of like Counter-Strike players are going to be better at it from the jump, but if they can do smart things with matchmaking, like right now, if you want to start playing CS, there is no one bad at CS for you to play with. That's kind of how it is. Matchmaking aside, everyone is good at it. But if a bunch of new people who are new to the game come to Valorant and they develop good matchmaking tools that actually put you in matches with people that are at your skill level, that could be like sublime. That's the reason I think Modern Warfare is so good at its core, is because it has really good matchmaking.
No, but haven't you heard skill-based matchmaking is a blight on video games?
Well, I beg to differ. And I think that Riot would probably.
Streamers just want to stomp people. They don't want to fight people who are good.
But if you stream snipe them, you're banned forever.
Yeah,
I really think though that the fact that the rounds are only a minute and a half is going to be super helpful for people to be able to stick with the game, because you get another chance much faster than you do in something like Siege.
Yeah,
and as long as the big if though is like, you do have to talk to your team, and if the community goes to shit and gets super toxic. Like I said, I've only encountered one person who sucked, and they were even like, they weren't saying like slurs or anything. They just yelled at me at one point, and I was like, I can't focus when someone's yelling at me.
Riot has developed a lot of tools for dealing with toxic players in their chat and stuff. I don't know how well it works with voice.
Yeah,
I can't remember if they added voice to. Did they add voice to League?
I think there is voice in League now,
but like they'll chat suspend you and say you can listen, you can see the chat, you can't type anything though because you've been a dick, or you can only type like certain like phrases or have like predetermined things you can send.
I will say that Valorant does have a pinging system, and it seems to work okay. If you hit Z, it pings, and the default ping is just danger. So like you can very quickly ping where there's an enemy if you're looking in that direction.
Will Robinson ping?
And also someone said the N-word in chat in a game. I was not in this game, but I saw a news story. Someone said the N-word in a game, and they were banned before the game was over. So like banned from the beta forever. So their moderation tools right now seem to be pretty good, but it's also compared to what it could be at launch, a pretty small pool. So
right, it's very early to see where the community is going to be at in several months, or when it goes out of beta.
Yeah, we'll see if they end up with like low priority queues or whatever. But that's interesting. Yeah, I hope it goes well, and I hope it doesn't go the way of Lawbreakers or something, where everybody streams it for a month and then it just dies.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because people clearly like don't get it. Like I saw people on Twitter that were like, you got paid to stream this, and it's like, oh, fucking course they got paid to stream it. What do you think streaming as a career is?
that happens for like every game. Like
Riot paid these streamers a lot of money to stream the game, and then enticed people to watch it with closed beta access. That is why it had 1.7 million viewers. Like
that. Yeah, that's like. But it's not like the first time anybody's paid someone to stream a game. Like
it's an advertisement.
It's extremely common. That's
extremely common. This won't be the first, nor will it be the last time that streamers are paid to do this. They
weren't like moderating what streamers could say. I watched one stream where there was a person who was like, I fucking hate this game and I'm going to keep playing it to make sure everyone gets keys, but like, I don't enjoy it. So like,
right. And I mean, like that's happened on YouTube for years. It's like, it's
hashtag ad.
It's where the times are. It's like the gaming influencers or whatever, to
it's like getting mad at like CBS for putting on an ad during a football game. Like,
right.
They're getting paid. Like, how do you think streamers make money?
Right.
WWE, you only showed the Snickers commercial because they paid you.
It's like, yeah, I of course, like if they hadn't paid me, I wouldn't have shown that commercial.
But it'll be interesting to see how it, after the closed beta stuff is done, how the viewership holds up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially since, you know, if beta keys are tied to viewership, then that is obviously going to drive viewership up. But yeah.
But are they going to be like? Sorry.
I was just going to say, League is like, so I don't know what its stance at or standing is now, but it's been like the most popular kind of esport for the most part, at least as far as I recall.
Globally, yeah. No, it held the record for
extremely popular.
It held the record for a consecutive hour or like concurrent hours watched or something. Like it didn't have concurrent viewers because that's still Fortnite, but it had for the longest time.
Yeah. And that's got like so much more in terms of like character appeal for like people who want to cosplay. And I'm sure there'll be people who want to cosplay as these characters from Valorant. There's always people who cosplay as Battleborn people, for God's sakes. But
man, imagine spending like thousands of dollars on your Battleborn cosplay. Like,
I hope no one did that. But I don't know if it can get to that League level, because like we were talking about earlier with like the accessibility stuff, or not accessibility, but like how approachable, that's the word I want. How approachable the game is. If people can, because like anyone can get into League pretty easily and have a good time, most people. And like there are different things you can do, ARAMs, or you can just mess around in solo queue and get yelled at. But if you find a character you like, you have fun. There's a lot of options there.
Yeah.
There's not so many with Valorant, so I wonder if it'll have that wide appeal.
I suspect they'll add death matches eventually. That'll make it a little more.
Also, but will that pull the same appeal that like League did?
Yeah, and I think looking at viewership right now is not worth anything because like most people are going to be like Pat, where they just had a stream on in the background and weren't necessarily watching it, or people have set up Twitch bots to just collect keys and
also it's a weird time where everyone is home, or most people are home,
so people have time to put streams on.
So I think it'll be a better question in 6 months.
And I mean, if you were to now anyway, because they're opening up beta access, I could start streaming and turn on drops, and people could get keys from watching me. It's not just a specific set of streamers anymore, but
anyone streaming the game.
If I logged on and started streaming without drops enabled, no one would watch my stream. Like, why on earth would they watch me if they can't get the beta from me? Totally. So yeah, in fact, there were streamers who were doing like certain streamers who have may or may not have committed crimes while streaming, were streaming the game and claiming they had keys in the title without actually having being a partner or having drops enabled, to try to snag viewers. And I'm surprised. Riot, I think, was in a position where they could not ban said person because they happened to have like a television show and shit, but also I hope that there was some PR communication that occurred there.
Yeah, that seems really crummy.
Anyways, Valorant.
Yeah, it's cool.
It seems cool.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about it.
We talked about that for 50
I know.
minutes.
I didn't mean to talk about it for quite that long, but it is. I mean, it's
a notable release.
It's very notable.
It's a very big thing that's coming out right now.
I gotta say, it's one of the more interesting releases of 2020 thus far.
I mean, but that's not. There's not a lot of competition right now in 2020.
Other than Murder by Numbers.
You want to talk about an interesting release?
All
right.
Let me tell you about.
Andre.
All right.
Let's do this.
Let me tell you about my trip to the bathroom earlier.
No, tell me about it. What happened?
Have fun.
Did you walk?
It was great.
Did you roll? Did you cartwheel?
Sometimes you got to walk before you got the runs.
Valorant.
Anyway,
Valorant.
If you run in Valorant, you make too much noise. So
there's no poop jokes that I have seen thus far in Final Fantasy VII. I've still got one chapter left. That could change. Things could take a turn for the potty humor. I'm not gonna talk about story stuff too much. Pat hasn't had the chance to play it yet, and he's trying to avoid that.
I'm interested in one story thing.
If you guys want to talk about the story too.
Well, is it about the end?
No.
And, okay.
Like, because we talked about this game last week, so people probably have a general overview of what the game is. But now that you're deeper in and you're like pretty close to the end, and you have played the original, have you seen, like, have the differences been notable? Have the changes they've made felt significant?
Yeah. So if they're to what end they're significant, I don't know if that will become apparent in this game. I am told in this final chapter is where it really goes off the rails. Like, I just got the no screenshots, no video of this chapter, like, notification from the PS4, where it's like, you can't record anything. So I assume that's where shit's about to really go off the rails.
It's all going real. Yeah.
Like, there like, where I'm at, there have been some like weird changes from the original that it was like, I wonder what that character's up to. Why are they here? What just happened? So I don't know. Will I get answers? I'll find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. This game, it got a lot of like really positive response from like critics and just the media in general. I think maybe a little overblown. I think it's good. I'm enjoying my time with it, but there are also some parts of it that just aren't good. I don't know if they outweigh the overall like fun I'm having with like the writing and the combat, but some of the like the mechanics of getting around the world, I think I mentioned last time, are just like PS1-ish in their like control and the pace of how you move through stuff. Like, I'm going to do these monkey bars and it's going to be very slow, hand over hand. Like, Cloud, you can jump like 20 feet in the air. What are you doing? Just jump over to that chandelier or whatever.
I mean, that sounds like the original in ways.
And that's not great.
There's a specific sequence like that in the original where you have to slowly climb hand over hand, and you're like, you just jumped like 40 feet off a train 10 minutes ago.
But like, that's like understandable from like the power of the PS1 and like the fidelity of those games and whatnot, how they controlled. They could do much better in 2020, I would hope, but maybe not. It's kind of like the Kingdom Hearts 3 thing where I was like, oh, this game is going to play
perfect.
Exactly like a PS2 game. And it did play exactly like a PS2 game. It was a little more fluid with the combat, but like the traversal and like all that stuff, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is just a PS2 game. So yeah, like pushing boxes and like solving puzzles is not great. This is the first game where I've really been like, why do I have to hold a button to like do an action? It's like, open this door, hold triangle. I'm like, why? What is this accomplishing? So stuff like that is just like kind of bugging me. It's not making me dislike the game, but it has been like, why do I have to hold triangle for 3 seconds to like pull this lever to open an elevator or whatever?
I saw a sequence involving a computer with 2 levers. That sounds infuriating.
You only do that the one time, as far as I can tell.
Like a bespoke lever interface that you use one time in the whole game. And it doesn't even work the way they imply it does.
No, it does. I had no troubles with that.
Okay. I saw people saying they had to try it like 30 times or something, but they could have just been not grasping it.
They need to get their eyes checked. But it is one of those things where it's super simple, but if you just don't look in the right place, which is if you look at the center of the screen, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the like the mechanic stuff outside of combat has been pretty hit or miss for me, mostly miss, just because like their platforming stuff and like their animations. In the section I'm currently in, there were a lot of like, okay, I need to have this character do a thing for me, but to get that character to do a thing, I have to go stand in a spot, and then that character has to walk over beside me, and then they have to like get into their ready animation. Then I can hit the button to send them to do the thing that they need to do. It's like, why do I need to take this extra 5 seconds when I could just walk over there, hit the button, and then like warp them behind me and then have them? It was just a lot of. This
really sounds very like PS1 level game design in terms of like pressing a button would do. You don't need to hold it. Yeah.
So a lot of stuff like that has just been irking me, but I think for the most part, the combat encounters, especially in the latter half of the game, have been really fun and interesting. The bosses, especially. The fodder enemies are kind of whatever, but the bosses do a lot of really neat, like unique mechanics. So they're not all just like, oh, get the stagger gauge up and then beat them up and use their elemental weakness. There's a lot of like targeting multiple points on a boss and, you know, taking those out, or like trying to get a shield down, or just utilizing unique mechanics in each fight, which feels really satisfying when you figure them out. So that's really great. And then once I've gotten some of my other characters leveled up, like Tifa has become so fun to play as in combat. Whereas early on when I tried playing as her at the beginning of the game, I was just getting my ass kicked. But now late in the game, I've got so many tools at my disposal. I can like put down this like trap orb, and then I've got elemental materia. So when I punch people really fast, I like, get their stagger gauge up, and I can do like cancel and do another move and power up my attacks and all this stuff. It feels very dynamic. Whereas if I'm playing someone like Cloud, is just, he's got a lot of sword moves. He swung the sword real good. Or Barrett is like, he shot a bunch, but he does have some other moves where he gets like up close and like does an uppercut with like different weapons and stuff. It's funny because he's got some melee weapons, but you can use all your like shooty moves with the melee weapon. So you're just like, I've got a big wrecking ball in my hand, but I'm shooting a bunch of bullets out of it. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, the combat has been very fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the end of this game is, because I hear it's buck wild, and I want to know. I want to see how they set up for the sequel. Very much, because I'll be there for the sequel, the next one, probably the next one after that, unless they like really screw it up. But because Alex did say after he read the ending, he expects me to hate it, which I have been known to sour on games in the final moments in the last stretch. So we'll see.
I think specifically for you, it's in the execution. I think the concept behind what happens is very interesting.
Nomura is, at least in my opinion, prone to botching execution.
Yes, but I do think it's an interesting concept that they go for.
Okay.
Maybe your brain is prone to botching the execution of understanding his genius.
He needs an editor or someone to go, hey, it'd be way cooler if you did it this way.
I don't think there's any argument to be made by any living person that he does not need an editor. Yes, he clearly could use someone next to him saying, stop.
No, okay. He needs someone. He needs someone to tell him when to hit the gas, because he hits it at the wrong times.
Okay, Nomura, this character's looking great, but can you put 3 less belts and 2 less zippers?
I don't know where they wouldn't need a belt or a zipper. They're mandatory belts.
Yeah. 2 more? Okay.
Barrett does have like 4 to 5
add a zipper
buckles,
onto the belt.
Like the
Sorry, 4 to 5 nipples?
No, buckles.
Oh.
I'm trying to think.
4 to 5 nipples is a good name for an episode of podcast. I'm just saying.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember there being a lot of. I guess Aerith kind of has a belt on her jacket. There's not a lot of belts or buckles in this game.
Okay.
But
so he's showing restraint.
Yeah, he's staying true to the source material.
Going back to his origins.
It's going back to my roots where I only had a
Nomura's first Final Fantasy game?
It might have been 7.
That was the first one he directed, I think.
Yeah.
Did he really? Jesus, no way. Was he really?
He was there before that, but let's see. He
I'm
first worked
also
as a
fervently
debugger for FF4.
Oh my god.
Games directed.
He designed the monsters in 5.
Oh no.
He became the graphic director in Final Fantasy 6.
He wasn't
conceived.
He wasn't the director of original 7.
Character design, monster design, scenario concept, battle, visual director. Wow, for Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah. Yep.
Boy.
Oh, he was also on Parasite Eve. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what we need?
What?
There's a new Parasite Eve.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, a remaster of the original Parasite Eve is what I want.
Wait.
But like an RE2 style remake of Parasite Eve, not like just updated visuals.
Nomura was the graphic supervisor for Mario Hoops 3-on-3 for the Nintendo DS.
That's why that game fucking rips. Clearly.
That's about wild.
That's weird.
Okay.
Quick question about Final Fantasy. This might change after you get to the ending, but since there are some clear differences between original Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake, would you suggest to other people that they play the original first or go straight into Remake?
That's a hard question because I was talking about this before the podcast. There are some things where, having not finished the final chapter of the game, I don't know how much they're going to elaborate on or like be like, okay, here, all this shit you just saw, here's what it is, here's what it means, because they kind of hint at a lot of mid-game stuff from the original early on, and you just won't, if you don't have experience with 7, you'll just be kind of like, what the fuck is any of this? What is happening? Right. And so I don't know if they deliver and like help you make sense of that.
So because again, this game is it like a whole faction that just gets introduced that you're not familiar with up until that point or something?
Kind of, actually, a little bit.
I think I kind of can infer based on what you're talking about the stuff they allude to.
Yeah.
Which I would also say, having not played Remake, I will tell you, Final Fantasy VII has not aged well.
See, that's the thing, is that like all this talk about it is making me interested. Mm-hmm. That being said, I have Final Fantasy VII on Steam, and I played a couple hours of it, and I just could not get through it.
Yes.
So this game is like 6 to 8 hours of the first, or of like the first disc.
Yeah.
So you could, I don't know if you want to dedicate that time to get through that and see.
I would also say about Final Fantasy VII, it has not aged well. I think if you can get over the visuals, part of the problem is that game takes about, in my opinion, it takes about 10 hours of playing that game before you start to understand why it's good.
I mean, that's kind of Final Fantasy in a nutshell.
Totally. And JRPGs to an extent. Like,
right. Oh, for sure.
The thing that makes Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, like a great game still, and the part that has aged well, it has aged for sure, but I think it's still good, is the character development system for how you like grow your party is really interesting. And the materia system just in general is really cool and still pretty unique. There's not a lot of games that have adapted that style of character development and specialization. So that's stuff that I think is awesome and still holds up. And the actual fights in Final Fantasy VII, I think, are still really good once you get past the early slog of just hitting the attack button over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Which is like a good several hours.
That's why Final Fantasy VIII is better, because you got the R1 to shoot the gun blade when you hit. It's more engaging. Boom.
That's what they needed, is more of an action element.
Oh my God. If they had put the gunblade in Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'd be game over.
But yeah, so like I think you would like Final Fantasy VII Original a lot if you got a good 10 hours into it.
Right. If I like pushed through.
The story also starts to pick up eventually too. Like I do think the story in 7 is really, really seminal, and given the time, it was really, really impressive. I think it does things that games hadn't really done before. At this point, it's a pretty anime, and I don't think it stands up to a lot of other more modern narrative-driven games. So I don't think it's like one of the best stories in games ever. But at the time,
right? But it's very
much of that. I wonder how much of that is the localization too, because that game's localization is kind of infamous for how haphazard it is.
I would say if you have 100 hours free, that Final Fantasy VII is worth playing, even from an academic perspective. And if you're going to play it anyway, playing it, I would assume that playing it before the remake, like if it's like the next two games you're going to play are FF7 Remake and FF7 Original, it seems like it would make sense to play the original first. But
I think you get more out of the remake if you've played the original. Like they're kind of companions more than
like
the same thing. Yeah, because there are acute, recognizable differences if you've played if you've only played up to the basically the 6 or so hours of Final Fantasy VII. There's still shit here. You'd be like, what? So I'm really looking forward to finding out what is going on, if they give any answers.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I will not give any spoilers for the ending. But let's say they don't give answers. Like maybe they do, maybe they don't. But in the case they don't, you have to wait probably 2 years until you get those answers. That's kind of a big ask. Like, yes, it's really cool because we can talk about it now in the moment because it just recently came out and there's a zeitgeist around it, and like we're having conversations about
Kingdom Hearts effect.
Yeah, but like like people are talking about going back to Final Fantasy VII. But the thing is, like, we're not going to see answers to those questions for years.
Right.
And that's a thing that I think is really like important to understand about what I think that like understanding what this project is important for anyone that's considering a purchase or not, because like I have a friend whose wife like adores Final Fantasy VII, and he was like 6 months ago, he was like, oh, she's so excited about the FF7 remake, and I was like, yeah, we'll see how long it takes him to finish it. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, it's part one.
Right.
And he was like, his wife was devastated. She was like, you got to be kidding me. And then like a couple weeks ago, he was like, yeah, she decided to wait until it's all out and play the whole thing. And I was like, she might be waiting 10 to 15 years for that.
Right.
I've had the same conversation with people.
That part is
how that game got out the door with Final Fantasy VII Remake and no part one or
that's the thing, is that it doesn't, and like I feel like with
from Midgar or like come on, like
I feel like with a little bit of digging you find out that it's part one, but it's not immediately clear by the title, which is
most really people like, unless you're keyed in, don't know. Like it's not clear.
Like this isn't really a spoiler, but like at the very end, after all the credits and everything, it basically brings up this big thing that says the adventure will continue for our heroes or whatever. Like that's not the exact quote, but it's like, oh, okay, so that's the end for now. Cool.
Avalanche will be back in.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like it's like an anime kind of thing.
And I just, you'll have a better perspective on it than me, Andre, soon. But it seems to me that like this is not going to be and then in 2021 part 2 comes out, and in 2022 part 3 comes out, and it's done.
I have no idea, because I think Final Fantasy 7-2 or whatever it's called, and then 7-3 Lightning Returns. I think it'll be a very different structure. I would think.
You would, yeah. I mean, for sure, because it doesn't seem like this game is built to be a open world game the way
this is built to be Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
I worry that it's built to be Kingdom Hearts, where you're going to get mobile games, and then how long did it take between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3?
Well, they had to make Final Fantasy 13 and then 15 and versus 13.
So I do hope that they learned from that, and I think they're smart enough that maybe they will just have Nomura's team working on these games.
Yeah. And I hope it doesn't end up like Half-Life 2 Episode 2, where they promise something, but nothing comes for over 10 years. And
then in 10 years, a VR game comes out that tells Zach's story.
Yeah, they remake Crisis Core.
yeah, exactly. Hey, I would play a VR Crisis Core. Sure.
Oh, God.
I'm looking
Crisis Core's cool. No, this isn't about, it's about Crisis Core, but it's not about Crisis Core. I just remembered a moment in Remake.
It's about my core crisis that I'm currently having.
No, it's about a scene in FF7 Remake. And I saw some people talking about how, restorative magic, healing magic in Final Fantasy.
Oh, no. I don't like where this is going.
There are so many problems. There's like the classic, we can't talk about it here, I guess, because if people haven't played it, but there's so many problems at Final Fantasy that could be solved with like a Phoenix Down or like, just cast Cure.
You mean the iconic moment from Final Fantasy 7?
Or there are plenty, any moment where somebody dies or is like hurt, is like just cast Cure on them. It's like they'll stand up to be fine. But there's like a lot of moments in Final Fantasy 7 where it's like, what? I think we can help this person out here, but I don't know. It's just annoying.
It's also a world where you can summon the literal Knights of the Round Table to come down from the heavens and simultaneously attack someone, and no one says anything about it.
They're just like, this is normal.
Again.
And you can set an ability to do it repeatedly until the thing dies, like 100 times in a row. So
so I pulled up the Amazon page for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it says like the description says that it's the second paragraph is the first game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, but that's the only thing that says, hey, FYI, this isn't the whole story. And the top review is basically a 1-star review that's basically mad that it's not
there are a lot of people upset about this game. I think so, depending on why they're upset, there is a certain group of people who are upset that I think it's good that they're upset. I think we talked about this last week. I think it's a much more interesting game because it's not trying to cater to purists, to fans. It's not trying to cater to fans of the original. It's trying to challenge them, I think.
It's trying to be its own thing, which is interesting.
So I think the reason I've seen come out of those people, like looking past all the all caps rage posts, I think it's pretty obvious, like, to say that they change things with the story, just from the reaction. What they change doesn't matter. But I think the issue, that umbrage that people are having, is the fact that it's called Remake. Like, they're thinking this is a 1-to-1 remake, but they've changed it so it's no longer a remake. So it's like a misnomer.
It's a redo.
They should call it they should have called it reimagined.
Or something like that.
Mulligan. Final Fantasy 7 Mulligan.
Final Fantasy 7, here we go again, motherfuckers. But like,
I would buy that game in a heartbeat. Like,
but we fucked up last time. That game you like, it's bullshit. Here's the real shit.
but like,
that's how the game starts. As Nomura comes, I was like, no, we fucked up.
Final Fantasy fans
again,
are
if that
furious
happened,
about this
I'd buy
one
this game
thing.
like right now.
Yeah, but I think the fact that they gave it the title Remake is why a lot of people are being upset. which I think is valid.
Austin Walker and like the Waypoint crew talked about how you have to think of remake as not a descriptor,
but as a subtitle,
as a subtitle, as an action, as a philosophy.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Right. I think that's valid. I just don't think that's how people think of the word remake.
I think the game is better for if it was just doing like the story, like without like including all the added like side story, like filler kind of stuff they added in, like that expands on like side quests, what Cloud's doing in the meantime, and like becoming a merc, and like, hey, fuck you, pay me. He doesn't say that, but he is always just like,
he should
for a price. Like his whole thing is just like, you gotta pay me. But if it would be a much less interesting game if they didn't change the story the ways they have.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that's also fair.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I don't even want to know the answer to this question.
Okay.
Okay. What's the question?
The question is, I guess I do want to know the answer. One of my favorite things as a kid playing Final Fantasy VII was that characters swore all the time, but they bleeped it out. So like they said like all kinds of swear words, but bleeped it out so that they could. But if you were a smart kid like I was, you could infer that they just said the fuck word. And I'm wondering, I was hoping that with this remake that Barrett would still swear a lot, but they'd just bleep it out of the audio.
I'm sorry,
that's a missed opportunity. That's a clear misunderstanding of the source material right there.
I don't know if it is. Maybe it is, but Barrett's interesting. He's very much like comic relief, but
he
he's
loves
also
his daughter.
Well, there's that, but it's also, I think even that's kind of comic relief. It's like, oh, here's this big burly black man with a gun for his arm, but oh, when he sees his daughter, he gets real sweet. But he's also he's just, he's the radical revolutionary. He's the one who's kind of pushing for taking on Shinra and like saving the planet, but also he's constantly like, he's not like slapstick, but there's a lot of jokes at his expense.
I recommend just listening to Austin Walker again from Waypoint talk about the issues with that character, historical and new, in their Final Fantasy discussions, because I think it's important to understand.
But there's, I would say this game, at least to me, I haven't seen anything that I would say is offensive. I wouldn't say they've like done away with, classic Final Fantasy or even just Final Fantasy VII issues, for sure. Like larger issues, but it's much more tasteful and less offensive, maybe.
It's a good way to put it.
Than previous. And some would say maybe even some people are going to have great times with some of the scenes. Honeybee Inn is
pretty good,
engaging, but it doesn't necessarily do away with all the issues of the original scene.
I read a really good critique of that specific scene.
I read that same tweet.
Well, there's a good tweet thread, and then there was a good, I want to say Kotaku piece, but I can't remember now off the top of my head. But just talking about the fact that like the Honeybee Inn scene has been updated to the point where it is no longer offensive like it was in the original game. But that also Square doesn't like deserve a cookie or something, because it's still leaning on some very, 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 very stereotypical tropes that are not necessarily offensive, but also it is not it is not a thing for cis straight people to go, wow, look at the representation here, because it is very much a scene about queer people made by cis straight people still much more respectfully than in the past, but still not quite
that scene
the realities of
that scene is wild and like
I watched it. It's very Yakuza.
Yeah, and all of the
well produced.
All of the folks that I have heard who are members of or have deeper experience with that community than I do have said it's actually entertaining, and not so much offensive, but also just like very milquetoast. Like they're not really saying anything with it either.
Yeah, no,
not at all.
It's funny because Cloud is so uptight, and then the scene he's required to like let loose, and it's so out of character that it's just like, what is going on? Very out of left field.
It sounds like they watched The Birdcage and then went, oh, okay, like, we got it all wrong.
It looks like they played a lot of Yakuza.
Yeah, like, I imagine whatever age you all were when you played Final Fantasy VII originally, if you're 12 and this is your first Final Fantasy experience, like, I think those kinds of scenes would make you think like, oh, this game is the best thing ever.
Yeah,
like,
totally. Exactly.
The way they execute on them.
Or if you think like a 12-year-old, like so much of the game playing public does.
Yeah. Well, oh my God. I just remembered a tweet I saw, or like someone complaining, or as a comment, I don't even remember. So Don Corneo is the little, like a mid-game antagonist. And he's like a little chubby kind of, he's a chubby kind of guy, played by Mark Hamill, doing kind of like a sleazy version of the Joker, if that makes any sense. And his tummy has got some jiggle physics. But some people were complaining that Tifa's boobs do not have jiggle physics. And it was just like,
why?
Yeah,
who cares?
because they want to see Tifa's boobs jiggle. But
she's got great support. So
I would not
she's
play
in a
this
sports
game.
bra like 99% of the time.
I would not play this game if every instance of Tifa moving jiggle. I would just not play it.
If this game was Dead or Alive.
Yeah, exactly.
I say, as someone who likes the mechanics of Dead or Alive and will occasionally play Dead or Alive, but in a game like Final Fantasy, no thank you. Also in a game like Dead or Alive, no thank you, but I can put up with it for that game.
They patched Street Fighter 5 and the load screens just had insane boob physics. I think that was Street Fighter 5.
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
We're well over 2 hours now.
All right. Well, real quick, I played a little bit of another game called Totally Reliable Delivery Service. Came out on the Epic Game Store.
I want to play some. I still haven't touched it.
It looks fun.
Yeah, so if you haven't played it, it came out on consoles and Epic Game Store. It was free on Epic Game Store for a few weeks, or like a week or so when it came out. And it's kind of like the mechanics of Gang Beasts. If you've played that, where you're kind of got like a little wobbly character and you use the triggers on the controller to grab things. With like, so R2 or right trigger will grab something with your right hand, then left trigger with your left hand. Then you use your bumpers to lift your arms up so you can like lift things above your head. So that's kind of the main mechanics of Totally Reliable Delivery Service. What you're doing is, as you might expect from the name, you are delivering packages from A to B.
Like
kind of like a Death Stranding. Yes, just like Death Stranding.
Oh, it's a Strand game.
It's a Strand game. If you play with other people, actually you can play online. There is online multiplayer. Apparently there's a lot of lag because it's been very popular. So their servers are struggling. But so that's good for them. Apparently it's a good problem to have. A lot of people want to play your game. But yeah, I was playing this with my girlfriend, so you can play with up to 4 people. I don't know if you can do any more than that, but basically you're going around this island or a series of islands, and you're finding a little like delivery kiosk where it's like, okay, go from here and deliver this package across the island. And how you want to get there is kind of up to your discretion. It'll usually spawn a vehicle nearby, like as it spawns the package, be like, here's a little like golf cart kind of thing. You put the package in the back and then you can drive off. But boy, are the physics wonky.
in a like, good way or like a frustrating way?
Yeah. So like if you were trying to like get gold medals on all the delivery times or something, I could see it being frustrating. For us, it was just like, okay, let's see what this game is. Let's mess around, have some fun. And eventually we just stopped delivering stuff and just started messing around with the vehicles and the physics and like, seeing like what we could do. Or like, okay, let's race across the island. Because the way you control all the vehicles is via joystick. So you like put one hand on the joystick and then it's like move it around. Some vehicles have two joysticks. So like left stick controls one joystick and right stick controls the other one. And so like if you're in a plane, you've got like pitch and throttle and yaw and roll or whatever on the two sticks. Yeah, basically. Or it's like you can get in a hot air balloon and stuff like that. And messing around with the different physics tools, it kind of gives you, and experimenting has been a lot of fun. So, and they've got like a ton of DLC already for that game, which is kind of alarming. There's like a ton of cosmetic DLC. There's extra maps and like missions. So definitely something worth checking out. I don't know. I don't know how much it costs.
Do you think that there would be any value to playing it as like single player or doing it without other people?
I haven't tried it single player. You could certainly do it. Like it's obviously designed that way, but I think it's more exciting to play with other people.
Right. I was just wondering because the mechanics sound different, but kind of the kind of multiplayer aspect kind of feels very overcooked-y, at least from what it sounds like.
Yeah,
a little bit. But overcooked single player is not good.
Yeah.
So
like the challenge I was having is like boxes just like flying out of the car or whatever. So what the system my girlfriend and I worked up was, okay, I'll drive, because she was like, I don't understand how to drive these cars, it's too weird. So what she would do is we'd put the package in like the back of the golf cart or whatever, and then I would get in the golf cart, and then I would grab onto like there's like a handle, and then so you don't like go flying out of the cart. And then there's also, so you grab like the handle and the joystick, and then my girlfriend would grab onto my back and then grab the package, so the package wouldn't fly off. And so that's like a way we were able to kind of finish some deliveries kind of quickly.
Yeah.
If you were solo, you would have to go very slowly.
Boom.
And some of them are totally doable solo, but
yeah,
it just sounds like it's the kind of game that would be more fun to play with.
Yeah, it's very fun
totally.
Just mess around with the physics and watch somebody grab onto a fire extinguisher and launch themselves 200 meters into the air.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, it looks like the standard edition is $15. The deluxe edition with some DLC is $22.99.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a good price for this game. I got it for free because it was on the Epic Game Store for free. But if you got it on console, or if you want to get it on console, is there something about it being on Game Pass? I don't think that's right.
No idea.
I doubt it. They probably wouldn't be able to do an Epic deal and a Game Pass deal. Yeah, maybe though. I don't know.
Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds wasn't free on Epic when it came out, though.
No.
So that's why it's more the free part of it that I'm not. Yeah, I don't know how that would work.
It's on iOS, or not iOS, on Android. I don't know about iOS.
Really? Their website only says Windows and Mac.
It's on the Microsoft Store, included with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate.
There you go.
So yeah, you can play on console. Yeah, so playing with controller is probably the best way to play this. It does split screen, so
that's fun.
Be aware of that.
Looks like it's also on iOS.
That's interesting.
I don't know how you would want a controller, I'd imagine, to play it, but
I don't know how I'd play that on my phone, but
never mind. I was looking at the Epic Store. That's why.
Yeah.
It is also on Switch.
Yeah. Like if you can like get Pat to play with you or something, Allison, then I would say it's totally worth playing. I can't vouch for like the single player fun, but like multiplayer fun is
I was just wondering if it was like fun versus like they say that Overcooked is technically possible to play single player, but it's not fun at all. So
you're not going to be getting. I'm sure it's possible to get gold medals solo, but it's a lot more fun to drag your partner or drag your friends around by the feet or whatever, or jump out of hot air balloons and whatnot. So fly a helicopter. God, the helicopter is a nightmare. So yeah, that's totally reliable delivery service on most platforms. Check it out.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, that brings us to Alex.
Hi.
The most video games anyone has ever talked about on this podcast.
Honestly, if you want to talk about that part of it, yeah.
We could talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I'll just give my update on Legends of the Galactic Heroes.
Sure.
Legend. I'm now 35-ish episodes in, and that show's real good. I don't want to get too deep into it because, I'm like a third of the way through a really long show, and we already talked a little bit about it last week, but I think it's worth getting into even if you're not super into 80s anime or anything like that. It feels reminiscent or perhaps inspirational to works such as Game of Thrones, where they're willing to just kill like main characters. Like in some of the promotional posters, they show like 6 of the main characters. Currently 3 of those are dead within the first third of the show. So like they're willing to go pretty bold with it. And I think it's really interesting.
Maybe you just misunderstood who the main characters are.
I guess the poster also misunderstood. But no, it's really good so far. The pacing has slowed down a little bit after the first like major arc, which I think is fine. But yeah, continuing to watch it. Not much else to report on it for now. But cool. Since we're running long, let's move straight into the other thing, which is shortly after our podcast last week, there was an event called the IOX. I don't know if anyone else watched it, but it's basically the Indie Obscura group put together their own, you can think of it like a Nintendo Direct style
state of play. Please.
Nintendo Direct State of Play, however you want to approach it, which was 100% dedicated to indie games that are coming out in the next little while. Like, it was just a pile of games from developers that you probably have never heard of. And I think that is what made the event really compelling to me is it was like a Nintendo Direct or State of Play in that it was really well produced. Like, the production values were on point. Like everything about it looked great, sounded great. Like I was actually pretty surprised by just how good it was. And then the other thing is I hadn't heard of any of these devs. I never otherwise would have heard of any of these games probably because they probably weren't getting that much exposure. Like I looked at a bunch of the developers afterwards or during on Twitter, and it's like these accounts like these games and developers and stuff that have accounts with like 100 followers. So it's like they would have been buried under so many other releases, and I don't know if they would have made it onto a Nintendo Direct or a State of Play or E3 or PAX or, like the big shows that we think of or events or whatever that we think of. Like, I don't know if any of these games would have ever been exposed through those. And yeah, the fact that they're given a platform and they're given somewhere to showcase, and like it's not just trailers for games either. They had interviews with the developers to actually.
Well, that's really rad.
Yeah, like they had one of the games that stood out to me was called A Space for the Unbound, and it was I think the team was just 2 people, and I can't remember if they were Indonesian. I believe so, but regardless, it was like this it's a game all about anxiety and depression and like pretty deep topics, and they're talking about it and they're like pretty openly like, yeah, this is coming from a place of knowing, and it's like a really interesting interview on top of the fact that you're seeing this gameplay and like they're introducing you to the concepts of what's going on within stuff, and it's just super cool.
Yeah, I might watch the what the stream was later today, because I pulled up earlier the Indie Obscura website that has the list of all the games that they showed, and there's a lot of really interesting looking games on there that I'd be interested. And the thing that I think is really cool is that it looks like there's a really wide variety of types of games. It's not
totally.
just like any one particular type. It looks like there's like puzzles, there's more story focused games, there's more combat type focused games, there's more, it looks like there's just a really wide variety of the things that the indie world has to offer. So it looks really interesting, and it looks like they highlighted a lot of pretty cool games that I'd be interested to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I really hope they continue doing these. Like, I hope this becomes quarterly, maybe.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Like monthly if they could, but that seems like asking a bit much given the production value and probably all the organization that has to go into it. But like, this is the kind of thing I would love to see more of, because like, it's great seeing stuff from the big players, but like right now with the state 2020 is in, indies are going to be bigger than ever and like carrying the industry more than ever, in my opinion.
This year is going to be a lot of indie devs are going to hopefully come out looking okay.
Yeah. I think that's going to be really good. And then also with the ease of publishing indie games, it's kind of a double-edged sword where it's easier than ever to make an indie game, but it's also that means that the storefronts are getting kind of overwhelmed. So it's easy to miss a lot of these really great indie games that kind of go under the radar. So I think that having more opportunities for people to say, look at this cool game is great.
Yes. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Allyson, because like, as someone who has made games and apps and stuff like that, you can spend 4 years building the best game ever. Like, it's excellent. Oh, yeah. But if you don't market it and you just put it out there, no one's going to notice it, and it's just going to fall under. Like, no one's going to touch it. It's going to be a failure. It's not necessarily a waste of that time, but maybe a game that is excellent deserves more attention. And an event like this is an opportunity to give those projects the attention they deserve.
Yeah, and I know that there are plenty of indie devs out there that quit their jobs, or they put a lot of their financial well-being and personal well-being into their games. And it's so hard. And if it's just, you can't, a lot of it is either kind of luck of the draw if things stick, or putting a lot of things into marketing if you don't necessarily have that extra marketing budget. It's just, there's just so much variable as to whether something is going to be a successful indie game or not, which is really a shame, because there's so many great indie games out there. And I'm so glad that there's people out there that are highlighting indie games and highlighting lesser heard of developers that really should be more heard of.
1,000%. So big ups to the Indie Obscura team. Please continue doing it. You can find a written up version of the event on their website, which is indieobscura.com. You can find the whole thing on YouTube. If you just search for IOX, it'll be one of the first results. Totally worth it. I'm sure if you watch it, you're going to find at least one game that you'll want to add to your Steam wish list. Like I added 4 already.
I've already added one just because you sent it over to me, and I was like, this is extremely my stuff. So
was that Garden Story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is extremely cute looking. Yeah. And I clicked into the Steam page, and I was like, Alex gets me.
and I think Andre will be all over Later Daters.
That looks cute.
Because it's the senior dating game.
Is that out?
It is out. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. It just came out. I think just a couple of the games are that they highlighted are out, which is also kind of cool, because it's they're still highlighting good games. Like, I know that I really want to play Coffee Talk, and they highlighted that. So I might have to. I was thinking about waiting to buy it later, but might have to buy it pretty early on just because it looks so good.
Yeah. Anyways, IOX, check it out. I hope they do more.
Yay, indie games.
Yay, indie games.
Soon they'll only be indie games.
I mean, honestly,
at this point, if they're all that good, I'm into it.
I mean, they're not all out, so you don't know if they're all that good. Maybe they're like this good.
Yeah, but there's plenty of good games.
Is that good? You never know. All right. Well, I think with that, we can move on to news.
Woo!
But before we do news, I just want to do a quick little PSA and say, hey, if you like our podcast, you can go over to podchaser.com/Gaming Fyx and leave us a review. I guess if you don't like us, you can also leave a review.
If you don't like us, leave a 5-star review. That'll really show us.
A 5-star review that explains five stars, one for each point that you don't like.
Yeah.
Also, right now is a great time to do it because Podchaser is donating 25 cents per review to Meals on Wheels COVID relief. So
nice. That's an easy way for you to help us and also help just the greater general population and those in need who need some food in this very trying time. And all you have to do is go to podchaser.com/Gaming Fyx and leave us a review. So now we can get into news.
News.
There's a lot of it.
We're going to try and keep it light this week. There were some sadder stories. We're gonna keep it light this week.
It's a rough time. I think we all kind of need some not terrible news.
Yes.
All right. So first on our list this week, Sony's Play at Home initiative, which is giving away games and also allotting $10 million for indie developers.
Yeah, which I think is cool. The first two games they gave away were that Uncharted collection and Journey, which
both have been PS Plus games, and Uncharted was a PS Plus game in like January. It's the Uncharted collection. And it was a PS Plus game in January of this year.
But for what it's worth, I don't think you have to be a PS Plus member to get.
You do not have to be a PS Plus subscriber. But it was like a okay.
I'm certainly not picking on you either, but I saw some people on Twitter complaining, and it's like they're free fucking games.
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty good.
It's just like
they don't owe you shit. Like they could just say, yeah, you know what? Instead, we're shutting down all video games for the next 2 years.
I wonder what the crossover on who's going to download. I guess you can't really check that, but how many people download this? I don't know.
I think
that don't have PS Plus.
I get your point too, but yeah.
I think it's cool though.
Yeah. The general initiative and idea is good. Nice to see. I think Uncharted and Journey makes sense, like from games you would pick, because
they also
are games where you go outside and explore, and then also where you make connections with people.
And they couldn't do The Last of Us for obvious reasons.
And I think if you think about it too, there's probably a lot of people who they start working from home or are quarantined and want to, like, maybe they haven't played video games in a long time, and their friends have a PlayStation, so they buy a PlayStation to like have something to do at home, and they may not have even had one as of January, or they may not end up picking up PS Plus because they just want this system to play some games, and those are two great games to hand to someone who has not been playing video games much for the last 10 years.
Or what if it's like they have a PlayStation 4 for their kid to play Fortnite, and now they're locked in the house. They're like, all right, well, maybe when the kid goes to bed, I'm gonna play.
I don't know who is seeing that is in that situation.
Yeah, just a hypothetical.
They may not have. They may not be buying it either because of this, but they bought their system thinking,
"Oh yes, yeah,"
and then they turn it on and go, "Oh, I can download these games for free. That's cool."
Yeah.
If they're surfacing it, I haven't noticed.
I certainly don't think this is selling any PlayStation.
No. I just mean like who, like if someone has a PlayStation and they're not on PS Plus or whatever, are they going to be the type? How many people that are in that situation are going to be looking at the news and the free games? Maybe there's more than I'm thinking, but
I don't think that matters. Like, I think it's just the fact that Sony's willing to go and put this out there for people is just a positive thing in general. And I think it's a community thing, which should be happening. Like, I mean, not that it should be happening. I think it's setting a positive precedent, especially the extra funds that they're allotting to indies. Like, I think that is really great.
I think that's really fantastic and good on them for supporting that community, because it had seemed like they had kind of shied away or like kind of pushed the indie stuff off to the side. Like, oh yeah, we used them at the start of the generation.
It kind of felt like no one was doing a good job of that. Like Nintendo better than the other two, but
yes, I would agree. But I hope that this is the kind of thing where Microsoft follows suit, and maybe Nintendo, if for some reason somehow, like Steam kind of does it with their tried these new games, whatever the game festival things that they do, which is neat. But I'd like to see them doing stuff like this too. So I'm glad that Sony put their foot forward and actually did something, and I'd like to see
totally. I think it set a cool precedent, and I mean, I honestly won't say no to games, so
I would be shocked if Valve does any kind of promotion to give people games.
I would honestly see Epic Game Store before Valve.
I mean, Epic already does it, so
they do. But like, I could see them doing something like this, I guess.
Yeah.
Epic is going to pay for every American citizen to learn to code.
They're going to give everyone a full full license for Unreal Engine.
A license for Unreal is free. Yeah, you just have to start paying if you make over like $10,000.
Okay, license for Unreal plus a bunch of plugins. Plugins cost money.
Sure. All right. Next bit of news: the Resident Evil 4 is currently. This is a rumor. It has been substantiated by a bunch of sources. Resident Evil 4 Remake is in development from M2. Is that the developer name? I forget the developer name. M2, which is I believe the studio that did Resident Evil 3 Remake. I believe that's what's going on here. Thoughts and feelings, everyone?
It doesn't need a remake.
I mean, I just don't think that the game holds up pretty well, so I don't know if it's necessarily, I don't know.
Like the thing about 2 and 3 and also 1 and also Code Veronica and like 0 to an extent is those all hold up for remakes because the systems they used are pretty deprecated now, like tank controls and like static cameras where you're just kind of moving around, like that stuff. It doesn't hold up to modern era, and in that sense, like remaking them makes sense, giving them that kind of modern touch. But RE4 is what inspired games like Gears. Like, yes, it's not as polished. Like things have evolved since then. But
it's also come out on every console.
Right. It's available on pretty much any system that you want it.
Like phones and all that junk. Yeah. So like, I don't know that RE4 needs it. Personally.
I would agree.
It doesn't need it, but I don't know. You might, not everyone on this call, but I think the majority of people who say RE4 doesn't need a remake, who are also Resident Evil fans, will still buy an RE4 remake, and then other people will buy it too, who see that it's a numbered remake of the series. I don't know. I just think from like a sales perspective, it's going to make them more money than if they had done Code Veronica.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably.
That's all they care about. That's how much money it's going to make.
Oh yeah. I mean, they don't care about if it's going to be like, that makes most sense. It's just, does it make sense? Not really, but like,
it just makes financial sense.
It makes total financial sense. Yeah.
I would have preferred Dino Crisis.
Sure.
Over
I would have preferred
RE4.
that or Code Veronica. There's a lot of things I would have preferred, but I think not with this group. I'm not like casting this on anybody here, but I think there's like this mentality around, because Capcom's made some good ass video games the last few years. I think there's like this mentality that like there's like a group of people who are developing a like feeling that they're doing it for any reason other than to make money, but they just made games that are good that also make money. Like this stuff is, they're a very business ass video game company.
Sure.
So, I mean, the people that are the developers themselves that are working on the games are obviously passionate and talented people. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But like, if you are the studio that made the RE3 remake and they say, we want you to make an RE4 remake and we're going to pay this much money for it, they're not going to go, well, the better thing to do is to do Code Veronica. So we're not doing it. You know, like it's money to Capcom.
Oh,
at a
100%.
high level.
And
I think they have but maybe they have finally determined they have reached peak RE4. They're like, we're seeing diminishing returns on these.
That's what I'm saying.
Ports,
yes.
So we need a new
true.
game that we can port. So
Yes.
we're going to remake RE4 so we can port it. Or if people hate the remake, we can port RE4 to the PS5.
Absolutely. Yep.
But with compatibility, they don't need to port to the PS5. So that's why they need to make a remake so they can sell it again.
But they make the remake.
They're going to demake the remake so it can run the PS4 and the PS3 and the PS2 and the GameCube.
But they remake it. If it's bad, then you can already see the Polygon story or Kotaku story that reads like the RE4 remake is bad, which makes it the perfect time to check out the original. And then they sell a bunch of backwards compatible copies to people who haven't played it. Yeah. Like,
right. Either way, it's probably going to sell.
Exactly. Either way, they're going to make a bunch of money on it.
Yeah.
Especially because I bet that it's all asset generation. Like, I don't think they probably don't have to do a ton to the, like,
if that's all they do, then
the mechanics still feel fine. Like, I played it not that long ago, and it felt good.
You have to be able to move and shoot.
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll use the same engine that they've used for RE2 and 3.
I would want them to do more puzzly stuff, because
the game has a lot of puzzles though.
Not in the way I want. Like, a lot of it's
the Ashley shit.
No, like, I don't mind. I didn't mind the Ashley shit. It's just,
see, that's why I didn't
like, I want more like Resident Evil 2 style puzzles or like the original 3, like basically 1 to Code Veronica. I want more puzzles like those. Whereas Resident Evil 3 is a lot of just kind of like, okay, go point to point, and then you pick up the item, and then you backtrack or whatever. Where there's like,
4, you mean?
Yeah. So there's not a lot of like abstract puzzle, like put the jewel in the left eye of the tiger statue.
Oh yeah, sure.
Or I bet it's going to be a lot like the RE3 remake.
I mean, that's basically what Resident Evil 3 or 4 already is anyway. So
right,
but just way like 5-6 times longer.
Yeah, I hope they give Ashley more agency in this, because for me, most of the game she spent like half of it hiding in a dumpster.
Yep.
So
that sounds like
and I will say the one positive thing I have to say about this is I think that there's some really cool visual spectacle stuff in RE4 that
especially near the end.
Yeah, if they redid that and made it look as good and as gross as RE2 and 3, there's some cool shit visually in there.
That would be pretty rad.
And I will definitely
Maiden. I would love to see the modern
and
take
even
on
stuff,
the Iron Maiden. Holy
stuff
crap.
like the fish in the lake is really cool.
Or whatever, it's an old game. How about the part with the giant statue of the dude who's chasing you?
Yeah,
so dumb.
There's some weird cool stuff they can totally do that I would like to see done in modern visuals, but I do agree that it doesn't need the remake either.
Right, but
if anything, RE5 needs a remake more to make it less racist.
I recall seeing a rumor that I think it was this M2 team I believe that's the developer, was working on something that wasn't Code Veronica and wasn't Resident Evil 4. So seeing that it is Resident Evil 4 is kind of disappointing. Like, I think there were some rumblings like they're doing Dino Crisis, but so hearing
only Musha, give it to me.
So many people came out and were like, or behind the scenes were like, yeah, no, that's what's happening. Is disappointing because I played 4 so many times, and it's like it's the boring thing they could do. Like, of course that's what they want to do, but it's not interesting.
How long do you think it'll be before they remake the original Resident Evil again?
Resident Evil 1 remake. Do they remake the remake, or do
they just call it Resident Evil?
Yeah,
the Resident Evil.
Yeah, something like that.
The Biohazard.
Or they just call it Biohazard everywhere, and that wouldn't work because there's too much in the Resident Evil name.
And they already did that with 7. So
yeah.
That was Resident Evil technically Resident Evil Biohazard.
Anyways, I'll probably play it, even though we're complaining.
That's
the thing is like everybody, like people are complaining, but like, will they buy it? Yeah,
it's the least interesting thing they could do.
I guess
now,
it is.
They were doing 5 and 6. Now we're talking 5 is all right. Like I mean, there are issues with it, but
I didn't find the racial stuff as intense as you might have, Pat. But I think 5 has less different issues.
I didn't really play. I haven't played 5. It's just the press around it at the time. There were some people that were pointing out some very specific issues that it has, in particular the way that it portrays like white women in peril against being attacked by black men. That is a really shitty trope that is used a lot in media. And when some of the few folks of color who were like working in games media at the time who pointed it out got like, wow, whoa, don't need to bring that into it. That's not what this game's about. Wow. Whoa. I remember it at the time. It was very like, these people have a right to criticize this stuff.
And I think
fuck you.
that is totally valid 100%.
And that's actually, I think, more of the dialogue around that game's issues than the game itself, because it's clearly not intentional that, like, I don't think that anyone working on that game intentionally wanted to. They just happened to use tropes from horror media in the past that are racist without doing the research. I don't think that they did it maliciously.
And race stuff in Japan, especially with regards to like African Americans, is very complicated with like their interpretations of.
I'm very hesitant
to things like that. But there's a lot of stuff that happen, like blackface stuff is not uncommon in Japan. So like, you know, those issues arise.
I think
lots of places.
I don't think you're doing this, but I think it's important to disclaimer that in a lot of cases there are people who go, well, it's Japan, they don't understand. And it's like, they have the internet. They're not stupid.
There's also a lot of like pushing that stuff under the rug or not acknowledging it. Or not taking the time.
Totally. Yes. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not saying,
I know you're not. Yeah.
It's
I know.
There have been lots of examples
it's just an interesting issue with that game that I think would be fascinating to see how they handled it in a more modern context.
Sure. Yeah.
And
with only looking at the game, not the reception around it, we can move on after this, but I think it was really awesome for a AAA game. Well, it's AAA at the time, it still is, but to set that in an African country, like that never happens. That's a very underrepresented place.
Where did 50 Cent Blood on the Sand take place?
That was in the Middle East.
It's in the Middle East, yeah.
Okay. But
there's plenty of games, unfortunately, that take place in the Middle East, and not unfortunately that take place there. Unfortunately, how they use the Middle East as a backdrop for.
And like you have characters like Shiva in Resident Evil 5 that do a really good job of representing like what normal everyday like people who live in Africa are like. That was pretty cool. But regardless, there is another game that handled race and other things really well, which I think is our next news story.
Kelsey Beecham, one of the writers of the Outer Wilds, has been hired by Obsidian, makers of the Outer Worlds.
Yeah, this is so cool.
That's interesting.
Is there just like a paperwork mix up, and they're just like got filed wrong, and like a W-2 went to the wrong place, and now they work at Obsidian?
I think it's just super exciting because Kelsey is obviously, in my opinion, one of the best. I mean, the Outer Wilds is my favorite game. So I think that she's an extraordinary storyteller. And on top of that, it's just such a cool place. Like Obsidian is, I weirdly haven't connected that much with a lot of Obsidian games, but I just really like what they do. And so I think it's exciting for her to be there, because I think that they have such immense talent in that studio, and I'm still kind of waiting for like, I think I will really enjoy Pillars when I finally play through it. But to have her working on titles like that is really exciting, I think.
It's always good to see indie devs get recognized and get pulled into like cool spaces where they have some job security. Yeah,
and she has such a impressive ability to connect, to create like very like to tell a larger story, I guess. Like it's such a, she's just the way all of the puzzle pieces in Outer Wilds fit together are really cool. So that's the thing that's super exciting to me. They have, I mean, clearly the people at Obsidian are masters of writing dialogue. Like they write some of the best dialogue in the industry, but sometimes my issues with their work in the past have been more from a plotting perspective than from a writing perspective. And she's someone who seems to be really good at that plotting. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah. I would love to see like what she would do with a character, like what scenario she could put like Pravati in or something like that. Like, because I think, like you said, the individual characters were really great in that game.
Right,
but
exactly.
The overarching story was just so terrible.
Yeah. So as someone like her that's good at putting those pieces together, I think that if she had been a writer on the Outer Worlds, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah, it sounds like she could add a lot to Obsidian as a team. So this is a good get for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of big gets, it's a big loss here as Jason Schreier leaves Kotaku.
Yeah, he's been there forever.
It seems like
years, I think.
Yeah, long time.
It seems like the Kotaku editorial staff has very shrewdly built exit plans. Yes. And they got the people out who were maybe going to have the hardest time finding work outside of Kotaku out earlier. Like obviously I'm a huge Gita Jackson fan, but she's someone who's like sort of newer to the industry. So I could see her having a more difficult time finding someplace to move to. And it seems like people like Totilo and Schreier kind of held it down there to keep the site running and keep people employed for long enough to get
for them to
a lot of people out. Yeah. Which I think is admirable. Good. Yeah.
Specifically where exit plans exist because of one Jim Spanfeller, who, if you haven't been following what's kind of been going on with the GMG, is Gizmodo Media Group?
Geo Media.
Yeah. They were formerly Gawker Media, and then through multiple sales and whatnot, they came to be part of Go Media. And Jim Spanfeller is one of the shareholders, board.
He's CEO too, I think.
So, some guy with a lot of control, and he sucks. Yeah, basically overriding,
to put it lightly.
Yeah, just there were kind of the catalyst for all this was some shitty ads started running on sites like Deadspin, Kotaku, and sister sites of theirs, and editorial teams had to put out stories being like, "Hey, this isn't us. We're sorry, these ads suck. We're trying to get them down." And then those were pulled like behind the scenes and all sorts.
They told Deadspin staff to start writing, to stop writing political stuff, which the reason Deadspin is the only sports blog that I ever read was because
right, and that was why a lot of people read Deadspin too.
And it was like I'm a person who enjoys sports a fair bit, but I think the politics of American sports are garbage in most cases, and like they were a place to get a lens on that felt like I was comfortable reading their reporting, because they felt like they were opposed to the shitty politics of American sports, but also acknowledging that you can still enjoy them and want to see that industry improve. So anyway, and after that exodus of
everyone from Deadspin quit. Walked off after someone was fired. I can't remember.
That was like beautiful how everybody quit at the same time. It was
most people.
incredible.
It was like there were like big groups because there were like some people like I need health insurance,
right? And it's like you can't fault anybody for that, but
eventually everyone was gone within like a week or so.
And I want to say that some of the firings, they were like violating union deals.
I believe
too.
so. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah,
So-
regardless, sorry, back to Jason Schreier.
Yes.
With his current exodus, was he the last one at Kotaku? Like, and
Totilla's still
there. Totilla is still there? Okay.
Someone out doesn't someone do who's the person who does split screen with him? There are some other people.
Maddie
there,
Myers,
sure.
I think, is still there.
So so Totilla or not Totilla, Schreier is writing a book. He's going to take a few weeks to work on a book. He also has a newborn child that he's going to spend some time with as well. And then in a few weeks, months, he is going to show up at a quote unquote brand new outlet.
Which is interesting.
Does that mean it's like someone's launching a new outlet? Does that mean he's going to like a Polygon or a GameSpot?
I mean, this is obviously like, it's kind of shitty to speculate about people's job moves. So I don't mean this in the like gossipy, like parasocial way. The tone that I got though from that piece was not that it is literally a new. Yeah. It was almost like alliterative because he says like brand new something, like he's starting a brand new job at a brand new outlet or something like that, which it read to me like, it was just wordplay. And I suspect he would end up at I would think GameSpot would be the place, because like
maybe
they've had CBSI has had multiple people like leave. So they probably have the budget in game editorial to hire someone who would pull a salary like Schreier between like Dan leaving Giant Bomb and Mike Mahardy leaving GameSpot. Like, I don't know. It seems like it would solidify GameSpot as kind of like, in my opinion, the sort of reporting and critical voice in the industry. I like a lot of Polygon's opinion pieces, but I also really don't like a lot of Polygon's opinion pieces. So it's like
Jason Schreier going to Fanbyte.
I hope not. I don't. I'll save that conversation for off air. I really hope not.
Not great to like speculate. It was just an interesting turn of phrase.
Yeah, right. It was an interesting way to put it.
But there's no way someone's opening a new outlet right now.
No, I could see him going to Washington Post because they spun up their gaming thing. I have a lot of issues with the Washington Post, and I think it would be a weird move for him given
democracy dies in darkness, so you need HDR.
But I would like to see what he could do with that position.
Right, especially since
make a lot of sense. Yeah,
especially with all of his reporting about workplace conditions and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like having like the Washington Post behind him could be a really interesting.
Except that the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, so
but,
it would be weird. I don't know. That's a strange thing.
But of anyone who could go there and kind of give it some legitimacy and bring interesting pieces, I think Jason Schreier is up
potentially.
There for me personally. Like I don't know. I don't know who I would pick above him.
It makes a lot of sense. For sure. So I don't know. I could see both of those things. I just kind of hope he's not doing a Patreon thing. Because
I don't think so. That didn't seem like what he would be doing.
My partner and I were talking about it, and it's like there's a certain point, like Patreon's starting to. There's not unlimited money. In Patreon, and like there's a lot of people that have started game outlets there, and I know I already have like a $30 a month Patreon fund, and I'm not adding to it. So like new creators that go there are going to run into that problem with people. I move the money around sometimes based on what I want to support different months, but there's already a lot of people in Patreon. So I hope that that's not the solution.
So many hours in a day, so many dollars in my wallet.
And I say that because I think that he would do very well on Patreon, but I think it would potentially pull money from smaller outlets that frankly need it more. So
he is going to Max Fun with a new podcast. I can't remember what it's
which is
called.
cool. I think that's
continue
great.
Split Screen, which people seem to really like. I've never listened to it myself.
I don't like Max Fun that much for other reasons, but I listen to some of their shows. So and then they're good at supporting their artists generally. So
sure,
yeah,
it's not Spotify exclusive at least.
Yeah.
All right, next news story. This one's a doozy. XCOM Chimera Squad coming out next week.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
a $10 pre-order, $20 when it releases.
Yep.
And seems like an XCOM 2.5, 2.5.
Yeah, like if they put out a trailer which was basically a comic, and then they put out a gameplay trailer, and it looks very similar to XCOM 2. And from what they're saying, it sounds like it because Firaxis is currently working on an XCOM 3, and this is kind of what's happening between those. And the interesting thing is that part of your squad, there is a sectoid.
Yeah, I think it's cool as hell.
And like the thing I really loved about that trailer, the sectoid sounded like a Solarian, and I was fucking all into that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I dig this. Like it is like the big difference from what it looks like is it's more of a like, this is your squad. They have personalities, and there is a narrative moving forward. Like obviously XCOM 2 has some narrative stuff, and the first one did too, but it's XCOM 2 is so much about like, here's your blank slate squad members that you kind of impart personality and development on. And this seems like more of a squad based tactical RPG and less of a like tactical strategy game, if that makes any sense. I mean, obviously there's RPG elements to XCOM 2 as well, but this almost seems like a strategy RPG, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like in the vein of something like a Banner Saga or FF Tactics or something.
Yeah, and something that this drives home for me is the fact that I'm really happy with how Firaxis has handled this, because XCOM 1 and XCOM 2, like Enemy Unknown and 2, like those are very different games in terms of their setting, their story, their pacing.
Totally.
And it seems like this spin-off to Chimera Squad is also very different. So they're not just like they're willing to evolve. They're not just sitting on like what worked well for them. They're willing to try new things, and I think that's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm definitely going to buy it. I actually need to play through. I only haven't yet because I need to play through XCOM 2. I have actually not ever finished it.
It's good. I think its DLC was really good.
Yeah, I would play it with War of the Chosen. I have all the stuff for it. I just haven't actually gotten through it. But I will totally pick this up and play it because I like XCOM a lot, and it looks awesome.
All right. I think I saw Tom Francis. But that's not what I was looking for. Maker of Gunpoint and Heat Signature.
Yeah.
I believe he is working on a game called Tactical Breach Wizards.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's a great name.
It looks really cool.
He was talking about how like that game was inspired by XCOM and XCOM 2, and he sees a lot of similarities in the stuff they showed of Chimera Squad and the game he's working on. So that's neat, another game.
That's a really good name.
Tactical Breach Wizards looks pretty rad. It's like Door Kicker, but you're wizards.
Wizard.
Yeah, and it's a tactics game.
Yeah. This guy has a riot shield and it says armed priest.
Yep. Riot priest. There's a close quarters battle witch. There is an elemental sharpshooter that has like a staff, but it's got like handles on it, like a grenade or like a RPG.
I love it. That's so good.
No, this game looks. I'm actually very excited about Tactical Breach Wizards. I forgot that.
I mean, Gunpoint was really good. Yeah. So.
Heat Signature is one of the most underrated games I've ever played too. I played like 4 hours of it and was like, "Holy shit, this is incredible!"
Cool.
Tom Francis is real great. He's also on his YouTube channel. He's doing a make a game in Unity with no experience video series.
Oh, that's cool.
That's how he was a writer, and then
PC gamer,
and then was just like, yep, I want to make a game, and he made Gunpoint and Game Maker with no experience at all, and I believe he did almost everything in that game.
Yeah, I believe that is.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
With largely with free or cheap tools. Like Gunpoint is an incredible game.
It is.
So yeah, that's 2 games you can check out: XCOM Chimera Squad and Tactical Breach Wizards. Whenever that comes out,
eventually.
And play Heat Signature. Too.
Yeah, and Gunpoint if
you
have
Gunpoint, but Heat Signature is even better than Gunpoint in my opinion. Tom Francis on YouTube, learn to make a game. I don't know, you can make the next Heat Signature. Yeah, totally.
All right, next news story. We alluded to this earlier in the show. Valorant's anti-cheat using Ring 0 access is kicking up a stink.
Yes,
what does this mean, Alex?
So this means that on an operating system, specifically Windows, which is what this is using.
If I like it, I should have put a ring on it.
You should have put a ring on it, yes, a Ring 0.
So I didn't like it.
So with your operating system at the very lowest level, there are always kernel level drivers. Kernel, not going to explain what it means, but it's what's always running in your computer.
That's why you need fans, so your computer doesn't get too hot, so the kernels don't explode and make popcorn in your case.
Precisely. Yeah, you just don't want that popcorn. And they make sure that your computer does not turn into popcorn. But the thing about those kernel level drivers is that the Windows specific ones are... they have access to absolutely everything. They have what is considered root access to everything. They can read, write, delete anything they want. And other anti-cheat engines like Punkbuster and stuff, they do have some of this, but they're very specific about when they can turn on and off and what they can read and write to. So they're still technically kernel, but they're not Ring 0. And you also have some other anti-cheat that's related to hardware where it does need that read write access, but it's specifically tied to the hardware. So it will only work when that handshake happens, basically. So all of that preamble to say that the one that Valorant is using that Riot has implemented is a Ring 0. So the lowest level, same that Windows drivers get. So read, write, delete, all the CRUD operations that you would want. But it's on 24/7. Now, the way they describe it is that they're using it so if someone turns on cheats before they enter the game, they can detect that and make sure they don't enter the game or they get banned or whatever. And sure, but there's already been proof that doesn't work. So that's kind of...
there are cheaters in the game, right?
Yeah,
which to some extent they have explained as they're not going as hard against them because they're looking at how they're doing it. So
which, okay, if they're observing, I guess, but still, I'm going to say a very black and white fuck this to that. Because for me, I cannot play this game because if anyone develops some kind of malicious software which can get into that, and anti-cheat software is the software that hackers want to get into the most. They're going to be hammering against it the hardest. And this is going to be a big game, so they are going to hammer against it very hard. So if they find a way to manipulate it so that they can suddenly do packet sniffing on your computer, they can get access to a whole lot of really bad shit. I cannot play that game because the stuff I work with on my computer, which I work on an encrypted drive, is NDA'd. It's for big companies, it's corporations, it's their tax documents. If that gets out, my whole company, which is a large company, can suddenly be put under fire. So this is actually a game I cannot install because if if something bad were to happen, there's a lot of legal repercussions that extend beyond the game for me. So this Ring 0 thing, people are kicking up a stink about it for extremely valid reasons. I think if you're doing this on a personal computer and you're not handling any sensitive data and you don't really care about people seeing your emails and your emails that come in from MeUndies and all that, that's fine. I also wouldn't care, but the fact that even just on my network, I'm having that stuff, even if it's not the same computer, it's really not good.
Yeah, and I think that the struggle that I have with the conversation is I think it's valid to, of course, be critical of it, like in the way that you are right now. And it's absolutely, I would never say someone has to play a game for any reason, certainly not for a very valid security concern. At the same time, like some of the conversation I've had has been like, you know, it's like their answer is, okay, then, you know, that's too bad. We'll miss having you in the community. Like they're not going to change it is the thing. Like they were very upfront about this software like 6-8 months ago when they first started talking about it's not just for Valorant. It's going to be for every Riot game. They're injecting it into Runeterra and League. Like it's going to be the same driver and anti-cheat system used for all of their games. So like, I think it is a potential security vulnerability, and I'm not even saying that I think it's a good thing for them to do it by any stretch. I don't personally have an opinion either way, really, because I'm not as educated on it. But it's just unfortunately, it's just the way that they're doing it. And they have talked at least a lot about like the degree to which they have worked with outside security firms to, you know, try to poke at it for vulnerabilities and their bounty program for that. And they have discussed that like if a vulnerability was found that it could be disabled in as little as a couple of hours. So which, you know, a couple of hours is plenty of time for someone to steal a bunch of information. So I'm not suggesting that that's like, you should be okay with it. But unfortunately, I think it's just like, it's sort of like the RE4 remake, right? Like the only way for it to be changed is if Valorant comes out and a huge number of people say we are not installing this game because of this, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
just
I think it's the first time some hacker or whatever black hat hacker decides they take it on as a challenge and hack into Ninja's computer. You know, someone who's very prominent figure. And they're able to show that, yeah, we were able to do this through this driver. Then, like,
for sure.
That's going to kill it. But like, I think
I actually don't know if it would kill it. I think it should kill it if and when that happens. I don't think it will. I think it'll be like maybe a few thousand people stop playing it then, and Riot comes back and says like, well, we shut the driver down and we fixed the security vulnerability. It took them 2 years to do it, so hopefully it won't happen, and like it's not going to happen again, kind of thing. And people would just be like, "Okay, sounds good." Like, whether I don't think it's good or bad necessarily that is the mentality, because I don't really have that opinion either way. But I think that's just how people are, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's stuff like de novo, right? It's things that people just live with it until it goes bad.
Sure.
And
I've seen people on the opposite end. I've seen people with some very spicy takes like, this is terrible because Riot is owned by Tencent, a Chinese company.
Yeah.
And
that's stupid.
So I think there are probably far more people who are in that camp than who are in like the legitimate concern camp, like Alex, where it's like, oh, I don't want Chinese companies having my data.
Tencent is a fantastic company who I'm not allowed to speak against.
Whether or not whether or not there's sensitive data or whatever, it just becomes the yellow scare or whatever, red scare.
I don't like Tencent for a variety of reasons, but I also play a lot of stuff like that they have ownership in, like, I don't know, whatever. I don't like a lot of corporations.
Yeah.
I don't like the Sony corporation, but I like my PlayStation. I don't like that Microsoft develops military headsets for airplanes that help people get murdered around the globe, but I own an Xbox. Like,
like those flight sims.
I think exactly. Yeah. Like the way that you talk about it is like, it is just a scare thing where like plenty of American corporations do horrifically awful shit around the world or enable it as well, including
but they're
spying,
American,
including spying and killing people. So like they all suck.
Yeah.
The only spyware on my computer is from America, damn it.
I think that perspective is just stupid. Like, that's more conspiracy theory-y, whereas like I'd like to think the way I'm coming at it is more pragmatic and
Oh,
like
totally, yeah.
Totally.
preventative.
And I certainly don't have any criticism for anyone in your position that is concerned about that aspect and the security aspect of it.
Yeah. And I think for like 50, like it's a 50-50 split. It's between how comfortable you are with the data you're using on your computer, right? Like, or that's on your network potentially. Like if you aren't that concerned with it, then, and you're willing to run the risk just in case it happens, okay, sure. But like some people can't.
Well, what I would like to see them do as some form of compromise, and this may not be enough of a compromise for you, but I would like to see them put together a like tool that allows you to say, when I boot my computer, I do not want this driver to boot with it. And when it's time to play Valorant, let me open a launcher that does a clean boot with the driver and just to play Valorant. And then when I quit, I can do another reboot, but like basically like it's disabled by startup, but they give you a tool to help you. Cause like there's like PowerShell scripts and stuff that are going around to like do some of this, but it would just be cool if Riot would say, hey, we're building a tool to make it so that you don't have to have it running if you're going to boot your computer and not play Valorant at all.
Totally. Yeah. I might try the game with the PowerShell script just for the sake of trying, but I'm still hesitant. But anyways, we can probably move on. We're already 3.5 hours
we're
into
pretty late into this thing. And
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Next news story.
Oops.
The ESRB adds a description for random items in games.
this is just good. There's no.
Did they have microtransactions already?
I believe so.
Okay.
Did they? Oh yeah,
I thought they had
I thought they
microtransactions,
had
yes.
something, but it was
Yes.
like effectively meaningless, like in-game purchases.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's
So
what
it's
it
like,
is.
Yeah, that is there.
so
You're
it's
right.
like so many games that it like covers such a wide swath
It's
of
like
things
DLC
that it's like,
and
yeah,
stuff like
DLC, like buy the expansion pack in a game, like versus microtransactions versus loot boxes and things. So
I do think this is good, but I also think it's potentially 3 years too late.
yeah.
What is the last game you played with random items in it? The last game that like came out, the most recent game.
Overwatch. No, World War II. Call of Duty World War II.
Okay.
I mean, I'm currently playing, I didn't bring it up because we don't need to talk about it again, but I'm currently playing a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena because they have a new set out. That game has random card packs. And there should be a disclaimer on that game that says, hey, you're installing a game that is expecting you to buy random shit with money. I don't have a problem with that because I like card games, but
and
it should be upfront.
That's been inherent in card games with booster packs and shit for like decades. So
to an extent, but I think like if your kid is like, my friend started playing this Magic game and you're a parent, like, and you're installing it for like your 12-year-old, you know, like I still think it just should, I think it's good to just label. I think labeling is good. Labeling of products is good. There's no, you're never going to
there's
not that you're trying to, but no one will ever convince me that not labeling something is better than labeling it.
Yeah. I don't see any reason to have negative feelings about this in any way. It's good to let parents know who might otherwise not, be aware.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also, I think, useful for like, if you have like a gambling addiction or other kinds of, addictive behavior that you recognize in yourself and you just want to say, I'm not touching anything that has random purchases in it, then there you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
And you can ignore it if you want. So,
and frankly, like I like buying random boosters of cards in card games, but like Legends of Runeterra is better about it by letting you buy specific cards. And so is, and like Artifacts 2.0 is apparently not going to have purchasable cards at all. And that is better than spending hundreds of dollars on random packs. So like if it encourages developers to go, maybe we just won't do much random stuff, then great. I think you're right that it's too late to actually have that effect, but
yeah, I think
it would be great if it did.
Better late than never, I guess.
Things have moved on so much to the battle pass, which is like, oh, you're putting in this much time. And once you reach this level, you're getting this and this and this.
Magic the Gathering also has, by the way, it has packs in the battle pass.
How ingrained in the ESA is the ESRB? Are they totally separate?
I don't know. I don't remember, but everyone should go watch No Clip's spectacular ESRB documentary where they outline all that stuff.
The ESRB, according to Wikipedia, the ESRB formally operates within the ESA.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of separation between departments, though, from what I recall,
but
from the documentary that
unsurprising that the ESRB is moving at a glacial pace and not keeping up with the times.
Yes. The ESRB is not very big either.
No,
it's
fair.
like it's still like the same core team of people that have been watching tapes of video games and rating them for the past like 20 years. From what Daniel Dwyer showed in that No Clip doc. It's fascinating. They're a really interesting organization.
Okay. Well, last few news stories. We probably could have done this in a better order. Riot Games acquires Hypixel Studios, developers of upcoming game Hytale, which is like sort of like a Minecrafty crafting game,
but more of an RPG than what I've read. It's like RPG first, and then it also has a Minecraft look and
sort of like a Dragon Quest builders maybe type thing. I don't know.
That's what it looked like.
Riot buying more studios.
I think it's fine because they're still making the same game they were making. If they had come in and bought them, well, but that says that the news story I read that they expect to ramp up development on it and hire more people.
Yeah, the game's supposed to come out next year, I believe. They invested in them back in like 2018 when they first opened, and now they're just like, oh yeah, I guess we like what you're doing. Bought them up.
Yeah, I'm not super crazy about studios getting snapped up if they were operating healthily with good investment on their own, but you know.
But if it gives them security and if they get to keep making their stuff, unlike what happened with the Rising Thunder stuff, now we're finally maybe seeing the fruits of that, but where it's like this.
I think that's going to end up having
gets bought and then just absorbed, and you're like, where'd they go?
I think the Rising Thunder dev stuff is going to have a sort of happy ending, because I think I would have to imagine that based on the original art design for that game, that the people making it are much more interested in using existing characters like in something like League of Legends than in making a bunch of different robots that were relatively generic looking.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I got the impression they were more focused on like balance and mechanics and that stuff than on art design. So yeah, but it did suck at the time to just have that cool game go away.
Gone for so long.
Yeah.
I bet we were going to see something about that at Evo. But
I bet you're right. That's a big part of why they're staggering the releases the way they are too for Valorant, because they're planning on trying to use these 128 tick servers to power the net code or to power to be the servers that you're playing the fighting game on too.
That's cool.
They're still building their own internet. Is that what this all is?
I mean, if anybody can nail really, really solid netcode for a fighting game, honestly, I would say they're the ones, because of all of that stuff. They have smart people working on those things.
What's the guy's name? He's not there anymore.
John Cena.
Or is he? No. Maybe he is there. He does the cross hands on the arcade. He was in Dive Kick.
Yeah, Jabali.
Jabali.
No.
No. Oh, what's the other guy's name?
He's got glasses.
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking. I was mixing people up.
He casts Street Fighter at Evo for ESPN.
Yeah, he's a very important person in the fighting game community.
I know who you're talking about.
Is he at Riot?
No, yeah, it's
Seth Killian.
It's
Seth Killian.
Yeah.
Is he at Riot still?
I don't know.
I think because I think he'd go there. Seth Killian.
No, he left. Oh wait, no.
No, it looks like he's still lead designer at Riot.
Okay.
I see a news story that I guess Rod Breslau reported that Killian left Riot like in 2018.
No, he hasn't tweeted since 2016,
and he hasn't updated his LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I think he's still at Riot.
Yeah, maybe.
Breslau's reporting is sometimes a little suspect.
Yeah, I see 2019. Another. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway.
Anyways.
Anything else? Oh, okay. Last news story, so we can wrap this up. God, you know what? Everyone's stuck at home, working from home. They need long podcasts.
Here's a huge long podcast. You can also just stop listening at news if you don't care about news.
You've probably heard it all before us. Anyway, CD Projekt Red says Cyberpunk 2077 is in a complete form and further delay is unlikely.
That's good.
Well,
that means they're actually going to hit their release
talked about this a few weeks in a row now, maybe.
I'm really excited about this. It's probably still my most anticipated game, but also if it's in a complete form now, after a month of working from home, and 2 months ago, it was like, oh, we got to do ultra crunch before we all knew we were going to be working from home for months. And they had to do like super tons of crunch to get it in a place. Like, which is it? Was it almost done? And maybe your employees could have lived healthier lives, or
it could also be like you can play it like the game is here. It just needs QA.
Yeah,
a lot of
I was
QA.
going to say QA is usually a big part of that development process.
Totally, yeah.
That's where stuff gets bounced back, and maybe the QA pass went really well.
That's true. That's a good point. It could just be that it was.
What if they push the release date up instead of delaying it, and it's out?
As long as people don't have to crunch more, I would fucking love for them to push it up.
That would be awesome. I think if a company was going to do that, I could see them doing that, being like, "Hey, we had this release date. Fuck it, we're releasing it a couple months early. Check it out."
Yeah.
Like everybody's at home. You want to play this really long ass game? Do it.
Yeah. That
Again, as long as it doesn't
wanted it for
make people crunch more.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. We as a podcast firmly anti-crunch.
Yeah.
I personally don't have the story in front of me where this is from. I don't know if there's larger context of this. Was this from like the earnings call or something? Because there was some stuff there about whether or not there will be a PS5 enhanced version and like, is it free or not? Because they said they're going to make a PS5 enhanced version, but they haven't. Like the Xbox Series X one will be free, as Microsoft has said, but Sony hasn't commented yet. So there's been like, ooh, what are they going to do?
That hasn't been clear yet.
That game is part of why I bought a video card. So I would love for them to put it out as soon as they possibly can.
I was gonna. I want to buy like the next gen NVIDIA cards, or see what AMD is going to do. Yeah, the 3000, the RTX 3000 series or whatever it ends up being called. But
if those come out this year, we'll see.
Probably not. But
well, they're made in Taiwan, so it probably will.
Yeah, but it just is reading rumors and stuff. It's maybe this year, but possibly next year. I don't know. Those rumors are all over the place. Anyways, that's a podcast, everybody.
It's a podcast.
Cartwheel into your bathroom now.
All right.
Walk
or just roll.
Walk till you have the runs. That's it for episode 117 of Gaming Fyx on April 18th, 2020. I've been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite pants. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Gaming Fyx. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
No, it's at Fyx Podcast.
Fyx Podcast. I'll never remember. I need to like write this down somewhere. At Fyx Podcast on Twitter. And if you go to podchaser.com/gamingfix, leave us a review. You can get 25 cents donated to Meals on Wheels to help people get food in this quarantine hellscape we all live in.
Yeah. Help people, help the podcast, win-win.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yep. Help the podcast, help you. Help the podcast, help people. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me outside the auction house in Ogremar under the name Spencer on the server Blood Furnace.
God.
Or at
Wait,
PJC Plays on
wait.
Twitter.
Wait, so is that a furnace made of blood, or does it superheat blood?
Does it use blood as fuel?
It's a dungeon. I want to say that it superheats blood to be used as fuel. It's also the name of a server.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I live my life 1/4 Ogrimmar at a time. Alex,
Hey.
where can people find you?
Oh, I don't know. Watching anime or some shit. I don't know.
Okay. That was a great time to pull out that I'm going to kill bad. What did that guy say? I'm going to space kill bad guys.
Oh God, yeah. Daddy has to go away and kill bad guys in space.
Yeah. Okay. And Allyson.
Find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining me, everybody.
The Blood Furnace is the second wing of Hellfire Citadel.
Oh, naturally.
The instance takes place above Hellfire ramparts inside the tower that overlooks the ramparts themselves.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Rampart,
well, you see, the rotting pizza is
The instance is
plates
substantially less difficult for solo farming than the Hellfire ramparts, although with a correspondingly lower gold yield.
Okay.
all right.
I'm just gonna fade all of that out in the outro, and that's just gonna be the outro.
That's kind of the idea.
All right. That's
All right, so
okay, we need to clap for.
need to
Clap
clap
it up.
again.
Hang on, let me time.
Yeah.
Time that is.
I don't know how my file is going to go, so we'll see about that because I tried to save it and then it kind of froze up on me.
Yep.
So,
It's all good.
yeah.
Okay.
45?
Sure.
Yay.
All right.
All right.
All right, so we'll see what happens to these files. Sorry about that. I have
Okay.
no idea what happened there.
Computers.
I know. I think maybe like my microphone cable might be wonky. I don't know, but I don't know why that would stop the recording. Anyways.
It could stop the recording if it's switching devices. It's like, oh, this device is no longer here. I'm gonna try and find a different one.
So I don't know if that's might be. I'll probably just like try to test it later this week and see if that's the case, but hopefully it's not because in these times I don't want to go out and figure out how to get another cord. But
Yep.
It is what it is, I guess.
See you guys all in a little.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.